Maybe there's some 7D chess that they're playing that's going to get us free. They're going to all.
No. I'm so tired of that. I'm so tired.
Are you still a member of Democratic Socialists of America?
Of the New York City chapter.
That face is appropriate because that is not a thing.
I let my membership lapse.
I couldn't believe my ears. The morning after election night, I let my membership lapse a month ago.
Just for this moment. Kamala is coming for AOC's spot.
We need to revisit the Electoral College.
In some ways, this story that we're about to tell of the disappointing left of the last week or so, in some ways starts with Graham Platner.
Woke one was crazy.
I don't even begrudge Mamdani and AOC and all of them for the way they're behaving.
I will not be defunding.
Because that is what they're meant to do in the positions they're in. And then when they come back to us for our vote and support again, we're going to have an evaluation.
I went back and I watched your Zohran Mamdani episode from like 7 months ago. And much respect to you for being one of the few who was willing to plant, some flags in the ground and say, we're all very excited about this and we hope for the best, but we have been here before. We've gone through Obama. Some of us are old enough to remember how hopium can become copium and that we should just hold him to account and watch closely what he actually does when he's in power. And now we're here.
Yeah.
And that was a very difficult thing to say back then.
Not for me. I don't know. I mean, well, I will say it was easy for me to say. I was actually shocked that I got so much pushback, but I was also in a phase. If you pay close attention to like most of my content over the last couple of years, I've mostly like kind of just dabbled in the politics of things because my politics have evolved. My politics have gotten offline more. And I just have a much less sense of attachment to the space as a whole and like needing to like be seen or engaged in a certain way in the space. And so when I made that video, I was actually shocked initially that I got so much pushback. And so I did a follow-up video. This is all on the B-sides, by the way. And then by the time he won, I was pretty comfortable in where I was going to take things. And I felt like what I had to say was useful. And it didn't feel like I was making any type of risky assessment because to me, it was just accurate.
Facts don't lie, Yeah,
and history doesn't.
It's hard. It's hard because there's this joke that to be on the left is just to be right too soon, and everyone's always mad at you for being correct too soon, and it feels sometimes even within the broader left that's the case. And I, in some ways, feel like I've been waiting for like 5 years for some parts of the left to sort of acknowledge that some of the limitations of the entryist strategy that some of us sort of identified 5 years ago were in fact real limitations that they have butt up against and are continuing to butt up against, which is the subject of today's conversation.
Right.
And yet, even in the moment that we're in, it seems so obvious that people are disclaiming their DSA affiliations and fully walking back their 2020 era commitments and branding this heel turn as woke point 2.1, 2.0, whatever. Do you know what I mean? That there's no acknowledgement of, hey, I was hoping it would turn out better than this and I was wrong. There's at best a sort of silence and immediate pivot. So you see this with like the Graham Platner of it all, right? Yeah. Like you again were sort of early to aspects of that. I know that there's some debate about, whether
there's a weird there's no debate. It's only a certain pocket of creator fandoms that have, we'll just say, not the best track record on common sense and like sensible takes outside of like the politics of it all. When it comes to intercommunity assessment and analysis, they're just trying to make things up because that works for the algorithm. But no, I've always been just the same way I was suspicious of Mamdani when Platner popped up. I was like, why? What is the actual appeal here? What can we learn from this? And that got met with the same, spoiler, what do they call it? Wrecker? Kind of like with wrecker accusations.
Yeah. They don't want power. They just want to endlessly critique power.
That type
and I also felt like there was a racial element to it. I don't know if you felt this way, but I even felt a little like, let me be sort of measured in my hesitation about him, because I understood. It seemed obvious to me very early on that part of his appeal, not to people in Maine, but to the segment of the left that really valorized him, was about the fact that to them, not Mainers, but to sort of DC pundit, bread to people, he seemed like an archetypal, like real gritty, tough guy, right? And there was a kind of white identity politics, for lack of a better words, that made them excited about him disproportionately compared to other candidates. Now, as long as his politics were good, I don't care, right? Like, I don't care. But when things started to go left, what it felt like was that their investment in that identity politics precluded them from seeing clearly that there were real problems, substantive problems with his ideology and his behavior, that they were unwilling to interrogate. And that's when it becomes a problem, especially when those trimmings, those trappings, those aesthetics weren't necessary to the project of getting a progressive in office in Maine, as evidenced by Troy Jackson, who seems to be doing very well in his stead without like the perfect macho plaid shirt fisherman
gruff
vibe.
voice. It's a I want to shout out a smaller creator whose similar analysis really informed a lot of my like perspective. It's very much a patriarchal issue. It's the left and the online left has an issue with masculinity in a variety of different directions. So like similar to you, because with so with Mamdani, I was a little surprised, but by the time I got to Platner, I kind of knew the game. And so similar to you, I treaded lightly, which is partly why certain narratives were spun about my actual belief in him or support of him. And I did that because I immediately clocked what his appeal was. And so my new thing is not trying to like make the video and this is all the correct stuff about the topic I'm talking about today. Like I'm trying to do that less and less because of really, that's like a meta adjustment I'm making because of what I'm perceiving about the space. Because even though I'm Black, as a traditionally masculine presenting man, people kind of seek that out and they don't critically engage a lot of times. And it creates a type of following and fan base that I'm less and less interested in being attached to. So my new thing is going back to my education roots, which is how can I guide you to a understanding of a topic without telling you exactly what I think you're supposed to believe, Paulo Freire type shit, right? Let me not deposit facts into you. And so I was like, okay, what is it about Platner that you like exactly? I get the whole, no weapons to Israel part, but like, why are we not bothered by red flag A, red flag B, red flag C? What is it about? Why are those things not making you, at a minimum, just be like, let's be really quiet about this. Let's not frontline, because I'm of the mind that the idea of demilitarizing, of taking weapons away from Israel is something worth holding your nose and voting for at this point, for a lot of odious candidates, right? But it should not be something that he was being positioned as the new direction and image of the left.
Yes,
he was meant
the
to
Great White Hope.
Yeah, he literally, thank you, the Great White Hope. That's perfect. And so it's like, well, why this particular Great White Hope? Why the guy with the Nazi tattoo and the 4 or 5 tours in killing people overseas? The unrepentant, part,
yes.
Because it's one thing, I have, I'll say complex ways of engaging around people who are ex-military. I have mentors who are ex-military. There were Panthers who were ex-military. So for me, that is not an automatic disqualification for allyship and camaraderie. Yeah. But unrepentant multiple tour what is it, Blackwater, or is it Deloitte, whatever
Yes.
group he was with. Like, that's different, and that should be that's a low bar, you know.
And just interrogate
and we
it,
tripped
right?
right
Like,
over it. Yeah.
The irony, and we'll come to this when we're talking about some of this contemporary stuff and sort of AOC 2028 and some concerns that arise around that. But when part of my issue is that interviews in left spaces, of which there were several with Graham Platner, he was interviewed by a number of sort of breadtube content creators. Mm-hmm. Those are opportunities where if you do have bad stuff or complicated stuff on your record, it could be explained in a way that's exculpatory, right? Like, I'm not sitting here saying that there aren't a series of words that he could have said that would have made sense of some of the Reddit posts that were saying that he wished he had fought in the Indian Wars and that he wished he could have had a chance to fight in Vietnam, and some of the quotes from his parents and family about how odd it was that he seemed to have this weird sort of bloodlust to go and fight. And they were like, no, we wanted him to stay in college, but he insisted on going up. Like, at very least, I need that to be addressed. But it felt like the desire to protect him from a certain segment of BreadTube that just really was rooting for him like a team sport as opposed to doing their job as journalists actually might have backfired and hurt him in the same way I think it's frankly hurting AOC to be doing softball interviews like the one that she just did in Majority Report, where nobody asks her about the biggest scar on her record, which is that she went up to the DNC and claimed that Kamala Harris was tirelessly fighting for a ceasefire when she wasn't, right? So like it's not even that I want to do I told you so laps or like castigate people, but it's like it sucks. We're podcasters. It shouldn't be this way. But on some level, we are the fourth estate because the corporate media, it's true. The corporate media is never going to ask certain kinds of questions because they are Zionists and they are militarists and they're never going to ask the questions from the left. And if we are going to have organizations like the DSA collecting all of this energy, this anti-establishment energy, people are despairing and very much want and need the world to change because of authoritarianism and flock cameras and environmental crises and all these things that are going on and ongoing genocide, then I want our fighters, I want that energy to be well placed in a good fighter, and I want those fighters to be well prepared and vetted. And even having a conversation about the basic vetting of Graham Platner, I felt, especially because I felt like as a Black person, that I was likely to be told I was sort of being a hater and that I just didn't get it.
Woke scold.
Woke school, exactly. I think Ryan Grimm said something about how, white men are the
bigotry
only ones
against
you can go
white
against.
men.
Exactly. So I was like, okay, I'll chill on this. I didn't say anything until it all came to a head.
And this is how I know I'm doing well. I didn't know who Ryan Grimm was until that happened. I did not know. I thought it was Ryan Beard. I was like, I thought Ryan Beard had more sense than that. And it's like a whole different dude. And
yeah, and it was frustrating. It's very, he was, he hired me at The Intercept. We worked there together. He is my mentor. I saw him as a mentor. At very least, I don't know if he saw me in that way, maybe. But it's been a very frustrating process for me being sort of close to this in these ways and really wanting to give people the benefit of the doubt.
Fuck them people.
And, but there's come a point, right? And for me, the tipping point, I have to admit, it was like force the vote. He was there. Let me not make this about Ryan Graham. Let me just put that to the side. This is not about Ryan Graham.
It's fine.
This is about. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I jump in? There's something you said to just now about team sports is a take I've been repeating for years now. Like, one of my first major breakthrough pieces that kind of permeated the zeitgeist of BreadTube was Break Bread. And that's like 2021 maybe. And there's parts of that video that like maybe haven't aged well, or things that I've changed my mind around. But I made the point then, and I've only refined it more and more since then, that the big problem with specifically the online left and kind of the American left as a whole, but definitely the online left, is that the vast majority of people, not even non-white people, come to these politics through not through experience or like tangible like material acts within their lives. They choose them once given the option. I make a lot of references to Pokemon when I talk about this. Now, like, there's a lot of, right now there's a 19-year-old kid that's getting ready to enter his sophomore year in college, and he's going to have his first engagement with leftist theory, and it's going to be him choosing a Pokemon. Am I going to choose the Mark's Pokemon or the insert right-wing figure here Pokemon? And he's going to make that Pokemon his entire personality for the next 5 to 6 years, if we're lucky. And what that does is it creates less of a sincere engagement with what these politics are supposed to be about, and more about team sports. I want my team to win. I want my team to be cool. I want my team to dominate the team in which I am not a part of. And that breeds a level of cynicism in how we operate the politics and how the politics manifest within the space as a whole, and how we talk about them. And we bring in people. There's one thing, so I've said every time I've criticized Mamdani that if a Zohran Mamdani popped up in Atlanta, I would be on his doorstep with signs saying, please do the Mamdani shit here in Atlanta, right? Mm-hmm. But I would be just as critical, suspicious, and on his neck about all the things in which would be necessary. I would not be a fan, I would be an advocate. And I think that's the way to do it, because that just makes fucking sense based on the history of how politics works in this country. But some people feel like they can't do away with the fandom, because if they do away with the fandom, then the other team starts winning or something. It's some type of cynical distortion and distance from what the whole point is of having these types of politics, which is the progress and support of regular people, not having the best take the earliest, or having the most unassailable, most woke, most perfectly left take that does only, what was I hate to bring her up. What was you mentioned ContraPoints' phrase that she keeps on getting read for.
They don't want power. They just want to endlessly critique power.
Right. Yeah. So that as bad as that is in most contexts, there is a version of that within some creator spaces. And so it all just becomes very tedious to me. Because, I probably came to these politics later in life than most of my peers, right? Or came to them to the level I am now later in life than most of my peers. But I lived these politics most of my life. And when I see people turning it into, media platforms and branding strategies and rollout methods for their newest, series of videos, it becomes I just want to talk about football after that. I want to make another video about it.
I get it. I get it. Can I confess, I've been feeling my life is a shambles, because I have been feeling, look, I have experienced some disappointments in this game before, but the last few days I have been feeling, I admit, kind of overwhelmed, and genuinely hurt and sort of disappointed, because as much as I can sit here and say, I'm not so surprised that this happened, I didn't want it to happen, and I don't know that I expected it to happen in such a gross, obvious, and quick way. We're alluding to all of this. Let me just go ahead and tee this up. Let me introduce, of course, I'm here with the one and only FD Signifier. He is one of the most prolific and substantive YouTube video essayists that we have. Welcome back to Bad Faith Podcast.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Good times. We'll just commiserate tonight. It's perfect.
We're commiserating. Look, we're here to talk about woke version 1, woke version 2, woke version 3, whatever version we're supposed to be in, and the unanimity among a certain section of the left that I've started to call the Platner left. Earlier versions of woke. Yeah, go ahead.
I want to, for the sake of burying the hatchet with a certain creator, I have to give credit of the Platner left to Cavernacle, who you might even want to talk to regarding this, because he's one of the few white creators of his general disposition that, while I have critiques of other things regarding Cavernacle's movements, I think we're very much aligned as it pertains to this issue specifically. And I did not hear that term being used until him.
Oh,
So,
well, excuse me. I think I coined the Platner left.
Well, he tweets way more than you, which is one of my issues.
Maybe. I feel like I'm not willing to give him that, but I have been seeing his tweets, and I'm not familiar with him as a video, his video stuff, but I do see him on Twitter, and I have noticed I've been seeing and retweeting a bunch of his tweets today. Maybe it was one of those like simultaneous origin stories,
thinking.
like
well, it's not exactly. It's not
like
a
Darwin
hard
and the other guy.
It's not it's not a hard thing to notice. It was like being more disengaged from the politics of the space, kept seeing Platner pop up, kept seeing the people attached to his image, or I should say his nutsack, and started like kind of connecting dots around things. And so like it's a easy term to come by. But I wanted to give props in that, that, or he's gonna pout about it on Twitter possibly. So we'll
shout out to Cavernacle, who I have also observed making really good takes. But in some ways, this story that we're about to tell of the left, sort of the disappointing left of the last week or so, in some ways starts with Graham Platner. And I think more specifically, the failure to sort of reckon with what the left media's role was in creating Platner as a phenomenon. I went through recently on Jacobin and pulled all of the articles about Platner, of which there are like half a dozen. In fact, let me read some of the titles of these articles out loud. And some of them, I will say, they're written by people that, I really like and respect. The reporting of David Sirota, for instance, this is not intended as an owning session in any way, shape, or form. But I do think there has to be some sort of accountability and like reckoning with the role that media plays in both creating these phenomenon and then intentionally ignoring other candidates like Francesca Hong or Kshama Sawant. So I went through and pulled October 24th, 2025. This one was by Branko Marcetic, who I had on the show to talk about Graham Platner last fall, titled "Democrats Cynically Wield Wokeness Against Graham Platner."
Are you
May 7th, 2026 by Ben Burgess. Why the smears against Graham Platner didn't work. June 8th, 2026, David Sirota. The attacks on Graham Platner are politically motivated. Which, by the way, isn't untrue, right?
But
they didn't like that he was anti-Zionist.
That's the thing. All right, continue.
Okay, and then the last one I pulled, again by Branko Marcetic, October 27th, 2025. You are being lied to about Graham Platner. I think that's the one that I had him on to discuss here on our one Graham Platner episode before the shit hit the fan.
Yeah.
Okay. So why did I go to Jacobin to look those articles up? Because I was wondering if there had been a single article published since then reckoning with what it meant to have been tricked, deceived, made the mistake of going all in on Graham Platner, especially since polls seem to indicate that his replacement is doing so well. Go ahead.
I'm going to disagree and say that they were tricked. If you saw the last video I made about not making politics videos anymore, I talk about how familiar are you with wrestling?
I heard this clip of it, I think, on Van Lathan played it on Higher Learning.
Higher Learning. Yeah. These people were not tricked in the...
It's like Kayfabe. Is this the Kayfabe argument? Yeah, go ahead.
Kayfabe. But specifically, these people were marks, is what I would say. So them being tricked is not a byproduct of like some complicated deception on Platner's part or the fight agency's part. Them being tricked is a byproduct of their desire to believe in the rules. The phrase that was refrained in the video is, "It's still real to me, damn it." And what this relates to is that at a certain point, I'm going to butcher this, and like, I know there's probably some hardcore wrestling fans that are mad at me because wrestling fans are about as bad as online leftists in terms of their pedantry. But the short version is, there was a time when wrestling was believed to be, it was somewhat believed to be real, or there was at least plausible deniability, or no open secret that it was not, that it was fake. And that was called, for lack of a better term, Kayfabe. that was the unreality of wrestling, where you kind of know something's off, but like everybody's keeping up the bit. And then at a certain point, the wrestlers let the audience in on the rules. And it actually made everything better. It gave the audience more agency. It gave the wrestlers more freedom, etc. But there's a portion of wrestling fans that actually hate that this happened. They preferred wrestling. It was more pure when kayfabe was still real. And these people are often disparagingly referred to as marks. And there were, and Mark goes back to like Carney, era shit. But the point is, they want to remain in that state of ignorance for their own benefit more than for the benefit of the actual art of wrestling. And so when people say they're tricked by Graham Platner, no, you weren't. Everything was there. There were plenty of people saying the things. There was a article when I made my second Platner video, which was also responding to nonsense that, has started around me with other creators. I think the day after the first was when we first was announced that there were credible sexual assault charges, and like nothing happened. So like at no point after a certain point was it being tricked by Graham Platner. This was willfully disregarding the obvious red flags for the hope of maintaining the facade that Platner represented to a large group of online leftists. Yeah. So, and that's what has to be reckoned with. Yeah.
I think it's a good point. And I also do kind of want to say, I've been thinking this and haven't had a chance to say it. With Fetterman, about whom there were also red flags, the main conversation wasn't about, before the election, wasn't about, him chasing that black guy down the street with a gun or anything. The main conversation was about him having had the stroke. And it was, I remember being on Rising with Robbie and him saying, do you actually believe this guy is like fit to lead? And it was kind of like, well, the primary is over. The election was like in 2 weeks or whatever it was. It's a Senate seat. Is he going to vote Democrat or are we going to vote for the Republican? Like, I get why people are rallying behind him because it was, a stroke, but the politics of it were clear. Mm-hmm. And there was no off-ramp. This is importantly, there was no off-ramp. It was like 10 days to go. There's no off-ramp. Right. Part of the thing that was so frustrating about Platner and what Troy's success is revealing is that it didn't even have to be Platner. Like, it didn't even have to be Platner. Like,
they wanted it to be Platner.
They wanted it to be Platner. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It is a so like we have to engage with the fact, there's some the gender dynamics at play. It's no surprise that most of Graham Platner's most ardent fans are other straight white men or ostensibly, perceivably straight white men, because I don't know everybody's business, and I hope that doesn't come off as disrespectful to anybody that doesn't identify straight. But at least cis, right? And then you have the lady that has that majority report who had one of the softball interviews. Yeah, but it's still kind of following the same accord. And there's always been an uncomfortable, how do I say this? The way leftist men, progressive men have to maneuver masculinity can often like lead to us feeling isolated, feeling aggravated by still feeling the need to perform masculinity in a specific way, being that form of masculinity not always being as rewarding as forms of masculinity that we know we're supposed to be avoiding. The internal, or I should say external conflicts with peers. We got half of these people in the comment section or in the chat room of insert person here streams are gonna like close that stream and then go argue with some asshole in their dorm room or at their office or in their break room, and that person's gonna call him a soy boy and gonna call him say he has low T and shit like that. And I don't care how much bell hooks you've read, that shit gets annoying. Right? You don't want people to question your manhood, regardless of how, you feel about your manhood or how you feel like you're supposed to feel. And so we can't ignore the fact that Platner like represented this mythical Marlboro Man figure that would be like, hey, what about this? What about this guy? He's not a soy boy. He killed people. Like that was a thing.
Yes.
Like I wish they would just
part of it. That was part of the appeal for sure.
You know?
Even the Nazi well, maybe that's too far. But it felt in some ways that even the Nazi tattoo. Can I say this too? Can I get this off my chest? There's been a couple of like race aspects of this that I haven't really brought up because again, I know that there are certain folks who were like, oh, you just didn't like him because you were black. Oh, you were triggered by the Nazi tattoo. And I've been sort of trying to avoid that criticism. I mean, I feel like that's the subtext. And I've been trying to keep my criticisms like really squarely on like, how can you say that he's anti-imperialist when he has all of these Reddit posts about how much he thirsted to go back and fight as a mercenary, how he wished he could have fought in the Indian Wars? I've really been leaning into that side of it because I have been avoiding getting like the backlash of, oh, you're just like the Ryan Graham criticism. Oh, you just hate white men, right? Like I'm trying to avoid that. That being said, between us,
between us,
now that it's just us, I don't believe, like, I believe there's a world where there's a series of sentences that could be said that make me able to get past the Nazi tattoo. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure those sentences were said. And I'm not sure that the people who interviewed him about it asked the right questions that could have gotten him there. And I do think it was really curious to me how easily so much of the left skated by that in a way that I'm not sure they would have skated by something that was, I don't know, maybe like pro-Zionist. I mean, like, that's a weird example, but something that was like closer to their own identity as leftists, well, and as opposed to like a white supremacist symbol.
Yeah. Well, the bottom line is like, if anybody said, like, I would have smacked anybody that said you're triggered by the Nazi tattoo. How else should I respond? That is a very valid reason to be triggered.
But you know what they said? They said, oh, it's a Totenkopf tattoo. Like people just get these boyish tattoos when they're in port and they don't know what they mean. And he didn't learn what it meant until later, and he covered it up. So why are you still mad?
We're still mad because we don't like white people. Let's.
No, I mean that's what they say about us.
No,
I mean like I don't buy. I guess like here. But let's break it down. The question is, can you buy the idea that someone got? Here's what bothers me. I'm going to say it. I can buy the idea that you could get a tattoo and not exactly know what the symbolism meant. I totally buy that. Mm-hmm. I also, as a black person though, however, have a sensitivity to tattoos that look a certain way.
Right.
And as a black person, I would not stumble into an accidental Nazi tattoo because if anything, I have a broader skepticism of a whole genre of tattoos that to me read a little white supremacist-y, whether they're like on the back, and maybe that's not fair. Maybe I'm making judgments.
No,
okay? I live in a world where I have to be hyper vigilant about whether or not that tattoo on that motorcycler's back is just mom with her birthday.
Right. or some new white supremacist dog whistle I didn't hear about. I'm not gonna know about until they're shooting up a school or some shit.
Right.
Yeah, and so that's the thing. And if we had a community that was amenable to why that's significant to us,
right,
that didn't just pay lip service to it or didn't try to gaslight us on why we're being irrational or woke scolds or playing purity politics, it wouldn't be such a problem. But it's because it's not just, for me, it was never just the Nazi tattoo. It was the fact that the Nazi tattoo was so easily and comfortably moved on from by so many people. And that's what bothered me. It's, like I have way more grace, despite the trolling around white folks and the accusations I get. Trust me, black folks to my left constantly criticize me for my patience and amenability with white people. I am constantly catching heat for having a positive relationship with Hassan. You know what I'm saying? And so.
Oh yeah, I forgot he's white now. I'm just kidding.
He's never been white to me. He's never been white. Is he? I don't. But he is white in a sense. It's complicated.
Yeah.
But what was I saying? But like, It's the fact that, and I think I said this in the video, most white leftists and progressives know that racism is bad, but they don't really know what it is. They don't know why it's bad. They just know they are not supposed to be it. And what that fundamental weakness within their race analysis leads to is every time they're tested on the necessity of racism bad, they fail because they don't actually know what racism is doing at any given moment until a Black person tells them. And even then, there's a 30% chance they're going to be like, nah, you know, woke 1.0 is crazy. You know, like they're gonna pull one of those.
Yes.
And after you do that enough times as a Black person in the space, you're like, you know what? I'm good. Thank you. I appreciate, you know, the time and the effort. Join the Patreon, leave a comment. And you move on.
That's so important to say. When I started like being anything other than a lawyer, when I started writing my first couple pieces for Current Affairs that went viral and sort of started my whole brief journalism career before joining the Bernie campaign, it was precisely because I was routinely frustrated by these sort of, frankly, woke 1.0 discourses that were happening in the kind of the Trump 1 era that seemed to misunderstand what the grievances or misidentify what Black people and other non-white people were upset about, right? So at the time, there was this discourse around like Kim Kardashian would get cornrows and we were all supposed to be very, very mad about it. And I would be like, well, am I mad that Kim Kardashian or any given person wears their hair a certain way? Is this like the thing that's motivating my politics? No. Am I upset that Black women in the workplace or in the military aren't allowed to wear their hair that way and that Kim Kardashian gets to monetize it and make money off of it? Yeah, that's frustrating, but that's because of the material dynamics across race and how racism creates these dynamics that disadvantage Black people materially, and also that we can't advocate for ourselves and have equality in these spaces because we are a subclass in the United States of America. That's the real problem. If Black people were the 1%, if Black people were rich, you know, no one would care what Kim Kardashian did somewhere in a low-income neighborhood somewhere, right? Like it's the class dynamics that make this frustrating, and the sort of the dare I say privilege that various groups have access to depending on who they are and what they look like and how much money they have.
Yeah.
And so I wrote pieces about that. I wrote this piece about cultural appropriation that went viral. I was writing about identity politics and how it was being weaponized. Not that identity was bad or that identity politics were bad, but that it was being weaponized by the Democratic Party to create a pretext for rejecting the left politics of the Bernie Sanders movement. Right? This is all in like 2017. And what drove me there were these experiences that I had in my life, including in law school, where exactly what you described was happening. There would be these racist incidents on campus, and I would hear my friends be like, I know this is wrong and I'm supposed to object to it. But they would sometimes come to me in kind of hushed tones and be like, Brianna, can you just like actually explain to me why actually this was racist? And they were well-meaning, right? Like I wasn't upset, but it was frustrating. And now all these years later, you know, like 15 years later, we have a movement now on the right and the left that is laughing at the idea of woke, laughing at the idea of critical race theory and all of these academic systems, which were working to explain to people why some of this stuff was problematic, not in a superficial, weaponized sort of way, but in a way that had a material basis. The Combie River Collective and those kinds of like socialist 1960s, 70s era thinkers were not the Hillary Clinton who was cynically weaponizing, well, breaking up the banks cure racism, right? But it all got thrown out, the baby with the bathwater. And now we have a left that is fundamentally unable to describe or understand racism. And they're coining terms like woke.0 to jettison the entire Black Lives Matter post-2020 movement.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the thing to understand, and this is probably why I've had a far less painful response to all of this, is because this shit ain't new. Yeah, this shit is this is shout out to I've shout out this man's book multiple times. Brian Quoba, Hubert Harrison, the Forbidden Genius of Black Radicals. Hey, shout out.
We're twins. I have it too.
Right. So, but you know that like he went through this exact same process in the 1910s. It was the same exact conversation where you have black leftists going to Eugene Debs being like, hey, can we kind of like have some explicit discussions around race and within leftist movements in this country? And it's like, I mean, class is really the thing we should be worried about. And it's like, race is a class. And so it's this exact same conversation. And these are
inextricable. Yeah.
They're inextricable. And these are conversations we're going to be doomed to have for a while. And I've kind of maybe cynically just kind of stopped caring about, like, I am so, like, while you're disappointed, I'm so unfazed. I'm not even interested in the victory lap. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not even gonna change Mamdani, the thumbnail on the Mamdani video again. Because, like, it's fine. You know, he'll do something cool next week and everybody will be like, yay, you know, and nobody will clock the duplicity in the woke.0 stuff is worse really to me for AOC, who rode in on woke.0. At least Mamdani, if I'm fair to him, has been relatively honest about his duplicitous nature. Like, he hasn't.
Okay, let's walk it through. Let's walk it through because I got a timeline for us here.
Okay, well,
finish your point though. Yeah, sorry.
From the time Mamdani won, as soon as he puts in or keeps, what's the police chief's name?
Jessica Tisch.
Yeah, so even before that, as soon as he apologizes to the police, the police officers while on the campaign trail, as soon as he takes Obama's phone call and talks, you know, generously about the experience, I'm like, all right, there he is. Cool. Get you know what? Get those grocery stores though. Get that free child care. Let's make it happen. Yeah. Free buses. You know, but I knew beforehand not to see it as a revolutionary gesture.
So you're right about that. But my trajectory with Mamdani is a little bit longer. I was recently reminded that he was on the first episode of Bad Faith podcast.
Holy shit.
I had forgotten. He has been on 3 or 4 times since then. He came on when he was doing the taxi cab hunger strike for the taxi cab drivers in New York. He came on during an episode with C. Weaver and I think Ross Barkin to discuss AOC's Met Gala dress and housing reform in New York, you know, a bunch of times. And frankly, as skeptical as I am about electoral politics and specifically running as a Democrat, given his long history of actual advocacy in New York, the number of things that he had said on the record that it felt to me would be impossible to disclaim with any credibility. The fact of who his father was, all of these things gave me, I have to confess, somewhat more hope than with your average bear. And so you're right to identify those early failures, and I clocked them as well. But they were more disappointing to me, I have to acknowledge emotionally, than they were for some of the other.
Yeah. And this is why you need to die inside more, Brianna. This is why you need to develop a cold, hard, inner working, inner humanity so that this will never happen to you again. Because none of that shit matters. And none of that shit matters. And here, I don't know if this is actually me. I don't know if I actually see this as a negative thing per se, but once you make it up in your mind to pursue power within the framework as it exists, you are already compromising the politics in their most radical, uncompromising form. And I think what I said in that first video about Mamdani that I was trying to make this point about is that we can be fine with that. We can be fine with that as long as we're doing our job. Our job is to be on top of his head as soon as he says some shit like he just said this week. Our job is to be on his ass and call him out when he keeps the Zionist police chief, and to call him out when he both sides the synagogue protest and everything. Like, that is his job is to hopefully do the progressive platform that we supported him getting into position to do. But people think that they were supporting a revolution in supporting Mamdani. And when I recognize that, is why I made that video over a year ago, because I was like, wait, I did this in 2007, 2008. This is exactly the same. And I need y'all to understand, you are going to be disappointed if you don't emotionally disengaged from the politics from the political game that is being played here. And I don't even begrudge Mamdani and AOC and all of them for the way they're behaving, because that is what they're meant to do in the positions they're in. And we are meant to get them at every turn. And then when they come back to us for our vote and support again, we're going to have an evaluation. And we're going to say,
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
But no, that's it. We're going to have an evaluation. And depending on that evaluation is whether or not they'll get support to go back. And they better hope nobody else is up for it.
I'm so interested in kind of being in this space and having these lowered expectations for people who work within the system to get in these positions that Zohran and AOC have done. And I want to come back to asking you about where we go from here, we being sort of this broader movement of people who did think they were joining DSA to be socialists and actually substantively change the country, not just sort of do reformism, Democratic Party reformism on the margins, free buses, grocery stores, et cetera. We are coming back to that. But I do have to walk us through, because we've been alluding a lot to all the terrible things that have happened in this last week. And I have a little bit of a timeline prepared for us. This August is known as Black August for Black American revolutionary reasons, but it's also Black August because it's the August that hope died. And it's basically when all of this stuff started happening, basically at the very end of July/August. So as I remember this, Platner was the foreshadowing of it all. Mm. Okay. Megan Romer,
Franz Ferdinand.
Yes, the shot that started the war. Megan Romer, who's a DSA co-chair, did an interview on Fox News that went viral. They went down the DSA platform list, asked her if she agreed with some of these line items. She said, yes, of course, I'm a DSA co-chair. And that's when the rats started to flee the ship. And by rats, I mean unscrupulous leftists. Sorry, I gotta just say. Because suddenly, in the context of these upcoming primaries, with all these DSA candidates, after this first slate of winners with the Clara Valdez and Darlisa Chevalier, there was concern that the DSA becoming so prominent and the platform being so out there would hurt folks in the upcoming round of primaries. So that's when you had people start to say, oh no, the DSA shouldn't be support abolished. The DSA, these are crazy things. Okay. On July 31st, Francesca Hong herself, who a lot of people fled because she said, frankly, some true things about Thanksgiving and genocide, abandons defund in a Fox News interview when she's questioned on it. Also on July 31st, Kamala Harris has an appearance where she starts talking in a slightly edgier, more adversarial way about the Democratic Party. And I noticed several leftists who are real leftists who I like saying, hey, this is refreshing to hear from Kamala. How great that she's seeming to change her tune on these things.
I have a theory on Kamala I'm going to save for later.
Do you know the clip I'm talking about? We have the clip if you want to
I would like to see it, but let's play the Kamala. I want to see if it plays into my theory that I've been peddling in the background with other people.
And we must allow for a real conversation about revisiting certain things. For example, and I know this is going to be controversial coming from me in particular, we need to revisit the Electoral College. We need to revisit the point of expanding the court to 13 justices like we have 13 district courts. We need to revisit, if they so want, statehood for Puerto Rico and D.C.
Yes.
If we regain control of the Senate, I served on this committee, the Senate Judiciary Committee, when I was in the Senate.
Okay, this is the new radical Kamala Harris. Does this conform to your theory at all?
Oh yeah. She did something a couple of months ago that first planted this seed in my head. But the end result is Kamala is coming for AOC's spot. Kamala wants to be the progressive candidate for presidency in 2028. That is her angle right now. Because Kamala, for reasons that are complex, but I think incredibly flawed, still has a lot of loyalty among black voters, mostly black bourgeois. Oh yes. Are you on Threads at all?
Okay, but let's interrogate that from the numbers perspective. Yeah, sure, she's got her K-hive. They are very loud. But Kamala lost in part because she got a lower share of the black vote than than Joe Biden did, and basically any Democrat in recent history. And don't forget that that's part of why she had to drop out of the primary in 2020. She couldn't consolidate any black support behind her.
You don't have to tell me this. I completely know that this is probably not going to work. But I think that is her plan. Kamala really wants to be president. She's not going. She's already failed at being a moderate Republican, right? She's already failed at that. She's not going to out Gavin Newsom, right? But she has something that AOC doesn't have. Well, she has a few things. One of which is winning South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, Mississippi, beating her in essentially the entirety of the South.
Okay, we gotta interrogate that.
I don't think this is a good thing, by the way. I really think
if the lineup, because it's not just going to be the two of them either. So if we're heading into, South Carolina, is South Carolina officially the first state, or are they still figuring that out? Okay.
I think that was official. Well, I don't know. I would believe that is official. I know that was announced.
Okay, so we're heading into South Carolina, and let's say everyone's still in because it's the first state. So it's Kamala, it's Gavin Newsom, it's AOC, it's Jon Ossoff, it's JB Pritzker. Let's throw some women. Maybe let's say Amy Klobuchar tries again. Let's Rahm Emanuel.
The only real. Well, so I'm sorry. I don't think she wins regardless, but this completely fails for her if Wes Moore runs as well.
You think? Okay, he's definitely running. First of all, good call on Wes Moore. He's definitely running. But I think Kamala can't beat Wes Moore in South Carolina. I think that just political talent wise, I'm not intending to be complimentary to Wes Moore in the least, but he can fit it cannot be overstated how little political talent Kamala Harris has.
Correct.
And frankly, God bless her, AOC is not that far behind. She is so rarely in situations that are genuinely adversarial that she hasn't been tested and had opportunities to fail as big as Kamala has failed. But I am not very confident, given the limited experiences that AOC has had, like at that, where was she at that conference in Europe? Was it Germany? I forget now. Where she's supposed to be proving her foreign policy bona fides, and she fell out on her face a few months ago.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I mean, whenever things happen, she kind of fumbles the ball, and I would argue this woke 2.0 stuff is evocative of that, but emblematic of that. But we'll get there. Yeah. But that's all to say, I have questions about Kamala being a force against anyone.
Well, I don't think
frankly, in that toss-up.
So I don't think she's a force at all. I'm just telling you what I think her goal is. Her goal.
Sure. Okay.
She knows her only possibility is she sees what's happening with the DSA. She has at times in her career, if I'm fair to her, been to the left of the general Democratic normies.
Yes. She was supposed to be Black Bernie. When she first launched in 2019, she had a huge rally. There were like 19,000 people there. I remember being legitimately a little nervous because she came out with a platform that was vague enough to seem like it was going to just be like Bernie in a Black woman's body, which would have been horrible for Bernie, right? But almost immediately started backtracking. She backtracked on her support for Medicare for All, which was a big one. And by the way, her favorables plummeted after she did that, and she never recovered. But had she not, even if she had just lied and stuck the landing, we might be living in a very different reality.
She was running Obama's playbook in 2024 for the first 3 months, or maybe not 3 months, for the first however long before the Democratic National Convention. She was running Obama's playbook, giggling and talking about coconuts, and was eating. She was eating. And Brat Summer. And it was
that looks like what you're doing over there with that background.
It's just so I can pretend I'm in the Matrix when I say really cool, edgy stuff about football, or anime. So I contend that if she keeps down that line, there's maybe a possibility that she's president now. But I think Kamala's problem is that she doesn't have much. She doesn't have much political talent, but she also doesn't have. She doesn't seem to stand on anything. You know, what she's very much beholden to whoever her handlers say. I remember the hype around when Netanyahu visited and she ghosted Netanyahu within that Brat Summer era. Like there was genuine. I was a person behind the scenes who when it became apparent that Biden was going to drop out, was like, if we want to beat Trump, the last thing we should do is run Kamala. Because I have been paying attention to her as as vice president and up until that point. And that's what's so crazy about her Kayfabe at this point is that before Brat Summer, Kamala was not well supported or loved among Black people. She was somebody who's like, oh, go ahead, girl, yay. But we weren't riding for Kamala in that way. But now that she has that, so I think, and this was solidified even before this by Ta-Nehisi Coates' weird articles he wrote a couple of weeks ago where he's comparing her to Fannie Lou Hamer. And it's like, no.
Oh, I missed that.
Why?
What it?
It was, he and of course, he interviewed with Majority Report about it. And it didn't make much sense. But I think what's happening, or whatever favor she has left to pull, she's trying to see if if we both agree that AOC doesn't really have the talent, and she doesn't either, but she's got more talent than AOC. She has the K-Hive. The primaries are starting in places where she's going to be favored at least over AOC. If she comes out if she comes out as the progressive in the race, if she comes out to the left of everyone else, on principle, the left will have to support her, and will
Okay,
support.
well, so we have to disaggregate some things here as well. Like, what do we mean by the left? And this is kind of what I want to get at the end is I have been very public about my lack of confidence that anything can be achieved working within the Democratic Party. And I think the timeline that we're about to go through sort of with these two people proves that. But to me, that's a call to a different kind of action, not a relinquishment of my desire to participate in any of this. And it's to say, can we redirect people who sincerely join the DSA and sincerely join the real left, not like liberals, but the real left, to direct our energy, including electoral energy, but also organizing energy, toward different parties, different efforts, different kinds of projects. So I want to come to that, but I do want to get through.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we completely derailed.
No, it's okay. Like, I have time, you have time. But okay, so here we are. So Kamala says that stuff, which, by the way, is the same pablum that Joe Biden offered. Oh, yeah, we're going to do filibuster reform. We're going to do a Supreme Court review struggle session to see if we're going to reform the Supreme Court. All of this stuff that just became meetings and conferences about ideas that were obviously never going to come to fruition. Okay, Kamala is offering all of that sort of stuff up. Around that time, we get the AOC softball interview on Majority Report. And on August 3rd, there's so much pushback from their own audience that Emma is asked to respond to why she didn't ask her about the tirelessly fighting for a ceasefire comment. And Emma says something along the lines of, she was trying to get Democrats elected. We've played this clip before on the show. I'll play it again for you now if you'd like.
Sure, because I haven't seen it.
Okay, let's play this.
Kevin from Madison. AOC spoke at the Democratic Convention and said they were tirelessly working to end the violence and genocide. What the Democrats were doing in 2024 was not the meaning of tirelessly. More on Gaza should have been in that interview. I hear you. I think she's pretty great on this issue, on the substance. Like, there are probably 3 or 4 Democrats that maybe have a better record on Palestine than her. But her record on Palestine also was very, very good prior to October 7th, too. she was trying to get Democrats elected, and I am sure that quote is not gonna, it's gonna be difficult for her to distance herself from it, but I think her record overall is the more important thing. Ryan from Santa Monica, of course, PBD found what podcast would be best for kids to watch. The PBD podcast.
So why couldn't she have said this?
Right. So say more FD.
Why couldn't Emma could have asked that question to? So it's not. It's pretty obvious on its face why she said that. She was trying to get Democrats elected. What people need is the sincerity of that cynicism to be spelled, to be aired out for us, right? But what people need is to be brought into the kayfabe, because by her not asking the question, and when we already know what the answer is, she's treating us like marks, and except for the marks, nobody likes to be treated like that. It's like, we know why you did it. We know why you said it. We knew it wasn't true then. We definitely know it's not true now. Speak to the reality of what that meant. And then circle back to your record. Because I do think that's probably correct, that she has a better record than most of her peers.
Sure.
So that would have been a great layup. And this is when you get to the lack of political talent. If I'm AOC, God, it makes me wonder what's really going on behind the scenes. But if I'm AOC, I'm ready for that question on a regular, because maybe not me, probably not you and a lot of people, but in general, this community, this greater nebulous leftist space, it's not super hard to please if we like you already, if we want your politics to be the politics, and you're willing to keep it a buck. She would not have satisfied folks that will never be satisfied with her. Me.
but to that end, I've said this on the show, to your point, I am not a mark. I know why she said it, and frankly, I don't know that I can ever trust her, given the choice that she made to betray the Palestine movement in that moment. To me, it's over. That being said, I know other people don't feel that way, and if I were them, if I were someone like Emma Vigeland and I wanted AOC to be president, then I would think, and I've said this on the show before, but get the bad information out on direct, where you have control over the messaging. Right. Don't wait for it to come out on cross, right?
Right.
And this was an opportunity for AOC to explain it in a way that was the most sympathetic, in front of the most sympathetic audience possible. And the hubris is, I don't owe anybody anything. I'm going to keep treating you as a mark. And it's insane. It's disrespectful. Or, and this is the other argument, it's genius, because she knows that because corporate media is Zionist and is never going to ask her this question because they don't care. They like that she said Kamala Harris is tirelessly fighting for a ceasefire, that she actually will never be held accountable to this. And we basically don't matter. Nothing matters.
That's the ugly truth that I think we also have to be more, we have to frontline more, is that, as many views as a video will get when you interview X persons, or, when I make a video essay or debate between such and other such and such, in the grand scheme of things, we still don't represent a critical mass that can easily force these politics into discussions that materially change what the broad discussion is. That is why, and I want to be clear, while you're kind of doomer, a little getting close to doomer, because I've been doomered already, I see everything that's happened this year as net positive. You know what I'm saying? Because we've smacked a couple of people, the DSA has smacked a couple of people upside the head. They've normalized certain talking points within at least certain realms. We're starting to walk that shit back now, which is a problem.
Like what? Exactly. I actually think I call this. I asked the question damn near a year ago, are these DSA wins going to be good for the left actually? If what it takes to win is to completely water down what it means to be a socialist, even a democratic socialist. When Emma says she was trying to get Democrats to win, is being basically pro-genocide, is running cover for a genocide worth it to get Democrats to win? Is abandoning Black Lives Matter, abandoning as police departments militarized, and I can't walk down the street without passing a National Guard unit, and there's tanks in the middle of parks here in DC, talking about, well, the police are good, actually, we shouldn't defund them. As flock cameras are being put up all over the country, is it good to have a Democratic socialist, the most popular politician in America, say, actually, more police funding makes us more safe? And we're gonna get to that clip. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself, but that's the problem. And to your point that you just made about like the limited ability for us to have impact, yes and no, because part of my frustration here's where we are in the timeline. This is around when Kshama Sawant, a socialist independent candidate running against a Zionist warmonger Adam Smith in Seattle, loses her race, and much of the Platner left celebrates this fact. And while there was an acknowledgement that the support of Hassan Piker was instrumental in spiking interest in Abdul al-Sayed's campaign, I think that is accurate and right. I think that the efforts of conservatives and liberal Democrats to attack Hassan Piker drew positive attention to Abdul that really helped his race and sort of what do you call it? Streisand affected Abdul into prominence. Yeah, I think that he's genuinely impactful. And some of these, the aggregate of the bread to media environment can be genuinely impactful, and it certainly can drive quite a few donations to a candidate. And you can't have it both ways. Either it's impactful and you have an obligation to use that to support people, or at least not ding them and hurt them and attack them when they share your politics, or you're not, right? And you can't blame someone like, you can't sit and say, I did so much to help support Abdul, but it's not my fault and I have no responsibility, when someone like Kshama got blacklisted by left media. And then there was a celebration of the fact that Adam Smith is returning to Congress.
Tell me more about that, because I didn't, again, I'm disengaged with a lot of the electoral politics stuff. And I guess I want to also respond to what you said. That's kind of why the duplicitousness of it still makes sense to me. So there's going to be situations where a Hassan Piker or a broader bread tube energy is going to be able to move the needle. And there's going to be situations where they do the calculus. They are doing the calculus on these things in the background. They're sometimes doing it poorly, but they have some reason to believe that we can still be ignored and lied to and treated like marks.
Who's the they?
This is, in this case, AOC, right? There's enough money involved and enough like calculation involved with these folks where there was a reason. There was surely a pre-meeting to that interview where certain questions were taken off the table and certain questions.
I believe that's probably true. Yeah.
Right.
But Hassan is different, right? Like, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Well, my point is that I kind of got myself mixed up here. My point is that in some situations, what we represent is going to be impactful, and in some situations, what we represent is going to be meaningless on at scale, or they would move differently. And I think the fact that AOC is not moving differently, is not addressing that criticism, is a testament to the fact that we are not on her head enough in her mind.
I agree, but look. I want to be so clear. I'm not out to get anybody. I'm not trying to tarnish anybody. I'm not trying to hurt anybody. I'm recognizing that some of my peers in this space have a lot bigger platforms than I do and have a lot more access than I have. But part of why I don't have access is because I have used it to challenge people in real ways that make them less likely to come back and speak to me. And as long as they can go to someone else, they don't get dinged for basically avoiding the media, right? They get to blacklist me because someone else will open the door. Whereas if journalists all acted together and all asked the same question, like what's beautiful is when you have like a White House briefing and one journalist asks a question, they get cut off, and the next journalist asks the question again until they get an answer, right? That's the dynamic that should be happening in left media. Not, oh, Brianna's such a meanie because she asked you to use your legislative power to force a vote.
Yeah.
Right. And so and now I'm going to be the nice one who then does a softball interview with AOC because I want to get her elected. And I take advantage of the fact that Brianna is using her political capital to try to get answers to questions that are actually material to the working class that this movement is supposed to represent, right? Like I would like us all to be working in tandem. So when I say yes, I agree with Crystal Ball when she says that Hassan had a material impact on Abdullah Saeed's campaign. I celebrate that. I'm glad that Abdullah Saeed won. But there are questions then about why it took basically a week-long bullying campaign to get Breaking Points to interview Kshama Sawant. So this is what happened. I'll make this very brief because the audience very much knows this. But basically, Kshama was the only elected city councilwoman who was an out-and-out socialist since like Eugene Debs was alive. And she had like 3 or 4 terms on the Seattle City Council, and eventually she survived a recall campaign that was driven by Jeff Bezos, attacked by billionaires because she's the one that first secured a $15 minimum wage anywhere in the country in Seattle and really started the national campaign for the Fight for 15 that came from Kshama in Seattle, Washington. So she made real accomplishments, and she has a much more adversarial approach. She was the only non-Democrat in this blue town, and she basically unapologetically bullied everybody into getting a $15 minimum wage. And her opposition, to be clear, wasn't Republicans. It was these other Democrats, as often the case, right? And she has a very different sort of, a much more adversarial approach to politics that has frankly been successful. This is not supposed to be just a random dig at AOC, but I challenge anybody to tell me what AOC has accomplished over her 8 years in Congress that's as consequential as winning a $15 minimum. It's higher now in Seattle, but putting the $15 minimum wage on the map the way that Kshama did nationally and securing it in her district, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. That being said, like I have, Kshama has made criticisms of some of the behavior of the squad members over the years, including AOC's choice to vote to break the railroad workers strike back in, I think, 2022 or 2023. And at that time, she and Ryan Grimm disagreed on this. Ryan Grimm came on and made his case for why he thinks it was appropriate to vote to break a strike. And Shama's perspective was that is fundamentally completely antithetical to what you do. Your number one goal is to defend the workers' right to strike. That is leftism 101, that is socialism 101, and there's just no two bones about it. And the interview got kind of heated. And I think, well, I won't speak for what Ryan's impressions were, but I will say that the audience and the broader public, I think, did not look favorably on Ryan's behavior and the fallout of that interview. Additionally, okay, I won't go back too much in time. So then she makes the decision to run for Congress against Adam Smith, who is the head of the, when Democrats retake the House, will lead the House Armed Services Committee, right? So this is not only is he a rabid Zionist, but he is in an important committee position if you're talking about getting rid of anti-imperialism and defunding the military and any of these kind of left objectives. So it should be important for all of us to get him out of the race, right? Plus, it was a jungle primary. So the top 2 go on to the general election. So all Kshama had to do was defeat this other Democrat who was running, who's another, I think, South Asian lady. Sometimes Democrats do this. They try to confuse the public by running someone. They did this to AOC once. They ran like a Republican Latina with 3 names. They did this to Abdullah Saeed in 2018 when he was running for governor with Sri Thandiyar, who was running against him. They do this, okay? So she had to defeat this other Democrat, a Republican, and then to get in the top 2 with Adam Smith. She was not successful. She came in 3rd. And when that happened, many Platner leftists, they didn't just go like, oh, well, indifferent, not to paying attention. They did victory laps about it.
And so celebrating for what? Like, why was this the case?
Because they hate it. They don't like her.
What
they
does
don't
she
like
do?
her because she criticizes the squad when they do bad.
Oh,
things.
she's not on the team. Like, she's not a good enough fan.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, I got you.
Exactly. I mean, like, I don't think that's unfair. If you ask them why they don't like her, they will say she criticizes the DSA. She doesn't like the DSA. She's a member of the DSA,
but
by
the
the way.
DSA isn't the left, and that's why I think this. So I think we agree on so many things. Maybe it's just the disposition around what we're really talking about. The DSA exists in this moment to be a recuperation tool for the Democratic Party.
100%.
That is what it is. And my opinion is, if we can get some cute stuff out of it, if we can get some nice programs out of it in the process, all right, great. And then we'll reset and start fighting niggas again, because that's what's going to happen anyway. And the conflict is I'm a Bears fan. I'm a Chicago Bears fan. We have sucked for most of my life, right? So we were good last year, and I was insufferable. And if we're good this year, I am going to be the most obnoxious person anybody in contact with me has met that day. But it's football. And so what's happening right now, the DSA has been around for however long. It's been kind of building to this arc. It's been a training arc for the last, we'll say 4 or 5 years, right? It's been in a training arc. Mm-hmm. And now the DSA for the last 18 months has been outside showing off all its new moves it learned in the hyperbaric chamber, and it's smacking the shit out of people. And I think that's great. But I think that's great, understanding fundamentally that if it's trying to seek revolutionary change through electoral politics in America, then it will ultimately either be co-opted or destroyed by the Democratic Party. And
that's what's happening. And in fact, I actually don't think the trinkets, like the cool things, are frankly worth the loss. So this is the question, and reasonable minds can disagree about this. Are the potholes getting filled? Are the 5 free grocery stores? Are the fast free buses worth the things that are about to come up on this timeline that I'm getting through? Okay, so on primary day on August 5th, Will Lawrence, who's another Michigan congressional candidate, wins. He immediately distances himself from the DSA. Did you see this?
No. Let's
play the Will Lawrence clip. This is a DSA guy. Okay, a DSA candidate, a DSA member. I believe he had a DSA endorsement. I'll double check that while we're watching the clip. Let's roll the clip.
So, as I mentioned, this is a swing district. Democrats desperately want to flip the House. But last night, you won the primary with less than 45% of the vote, meaning most Democrats voted actually for someone else. Isn't that a position of weakness heading into the general election?
Thanks for having me on, Manu. We're feeling very strong. We actually built a coalition across every county in the 7th District, and we performed very well here in the Lansing area, but we also won Livingston County, where a lot of people said we would struggle. We won Eaton County, and we really put up impressive margins throughout the district. So I'm confident about our ability to move into the general election and take on Tom Barrett, who has done nothing but raise the cost of health care for Michigan families while voting for these disastrous wars that are hiking the cost of gas and groceries.
But Mr. Lawrence, you've called to abolish ICE at one point, and at one point, although you've walked it back, you called for defunding police, and you ran an organization that essentially helped develop the Green New Deal. I'm wondering about these very progressive positions, and if you're concerned that they could turn off some swing voters in a district that Trump carried in 2024.
No, we're building this campaign on face-to-face conversations with voters across the district who are sick of corporate-funded candidates, and they're looking for someone who is real and is going to fight for the working class against these billionaires in Silicon Valley and Wall Street. So we're finding tons of common ground on issues like stopping AI data centers, stopping these stupid wars around the world, and investing in housing and healthcare that we can actually afford and count on. And those are issues that are bringing together Democrats, Republicans, and independents in every corner of this district.
So you have the support of Bernie Sanders, but you're not running as a Democratic Socialist, but you were once a member of the Democratic Socialists of America. When did you leave that organization, and what drove you away?
I let my membership lapse because I just want to make very clear that I'm here to represent the people of this district and focus on the issues that are bringing people together. And we just want to stay laser focused on these issues that we're hearing concern about all across the 7th District, the cost of housing, the cost of healthcare and gasoline and groceries, and the fact that we have criminals, frankly, in government who are getting rich on the public expense, and there's no accountability. So we're here to unite the 7th District by beating Barrett in November.
So when did you leave the Democratic Socialists of America?
It was within the last month I let my membership lapse. I've got a lot of respect for DSA and the work that they're doing around the country, but I felt a need to make it very clear that the platform we're running on here is the one that has come up based on the conversations we're having across the 7th District.
So did you let that membership expire because of the general election?
No, it's just because I want to make clear to my constituents that I'm here to represent them. And my one and only job is to represent the people of the district by stopping these AI data centers, stopping these stupid wars around the world, investing in a life we can actually afford.
But where do you differ from the Democratic Socialists of America?
You know, I don't want to comment on I'm happy to comment on any particular policy if you're of interest, but the point is that, I'm an organizer and coalition builder, and we are laser focused here on reaching all the voters across this district with an agenda which is really being built on the priorities we hear coming up locally. So,
Mr. Lawrence, this was a pretty contentious primary. The Congressional Black Caucus's political arm came out against you in 2020 because of comments that you made in 2024 saying that older black leadership is a pillar for, quote, establishment, capitalist, imperialist American power, and those black leaders, quote, defang the white left. Now, I know you said that you regret your word choice and the way that it's been portrayed had been taken out of context, but isn't that going to be harder to unify, to get the Congressional Black Caucus, to get the party behind you with comments like that?
As I've said, I regret those comments, and I look forward to having conversations very soon with members of the CBC to unite so that we can beat Tom Barrett in November.
All right, you can stop it here. God damn. God damn. Fucking shit.
I couldn't believe my ears. Like, this is literally the day after the night that he won the election. Like, this is the day after election night, the morning after election night. I let my membership lapse a month ago.
Just for this moment.
Just for this moment.
I knew you was going to ask me that. Just in case you did, I let that shit lapse a month ago. I haven't played my socialism bill in like 3 months.
It's so craven.
Not gonna get me.
So craven. I was like, damn. And frankly, I saw, some people were mad, but honestly, I didn't see that much irritation. I saw most of the Platner left just happy he won.
Because the team won. So Chicago Bears were 12-5 last year, and like 7 of our games were won by 1 point at the last second. I don't care. We fucking won. What are you gonna do? You losers. You didn't win the division. We did. And that's kind of the thing, because it's so that's also like, none of this, while that's hard to watch, none of this is surprising to me. None of this is new to me. None of this is new, period. We both just held up the same goddamn.
Okay, but FD, come on. This level of cynicism, I'm sorry, I don't care how jaded you are and how much you expect people to, this level of flagrant flip-flopping without any, like, just complete indifference to whether or not your purported base, this is a guy who was a co-founder of the Sunrise Movement, just complete indifference to whether or not your base is going to look at you sideways. This is a level of flagrancy, a level of cynicism that I think, even if you expect it to happen, it shocks the conscience. I'm sorry. This to me is an escalation of fuck you to the public.
To quote the great Cat Williams, you seem to have an unnatural allegiance to losers, and that doesn't seem very like you.
Wait, where's that Cat Williams quote from?
That is from his infamous conversation with Shannon Sharp from a couple of years ago.
Oh,
and yeah, it's like, sure. it's and so for me, this is me. I'm in organization A, organization B. Organization A does this, organization B does that. I'm donating to issue here, issue there. I am preparing my own, household and my peers for hopefully things that will never happen. And I'm letting y'all do that because and this is why I'm not bothered materially. What is the difference? Right? Like, aside from people false claiming politics that we hold dear, aside from having to have a conversation that we were going to have anyway with the same people we've been having it with for the last 5 years, aside from things that fundamentally were here regardless of which, is he for taking weapons from Israel? Did he backtrack on that?
Well, for now, but here's what's going to happen. This is like, I
was about to say that a win is a win, but
honestly,
damn.
I wish I had the patience to be a video essayist, because I have what's that meme from Always Sunny in Pennsylvania, where he's got the lines in the charts, like
run that shit. I'll do it. I'll make you a co-writer.
Here, here's the material. Please, FD, do this, because I can't even get a radar out, much less a whole video essay. But here's the problem. Back in the beginning of this year, AOC came out and said that she had the New York DSA had pulled her in and said, your Iron Dome votes are a problem. There was some discussion about kicking her out of the organization. She says, okay, I'm going to agree. I'm never going to vote for the Iron Dome again. And Ryan Grimm came out and characterized this. He wasn't the only one, but they came out and characterized this as, AOC taking this incredible stand. Wow, she's a vanguard of the left. Other observers, Kate Willett, a wonderful comedian and leftist, chief among them, pointed out that there was a video from a couple of months earlier, which I believe featured Marco Rubio. If it's not Marco Rubio, we'll clip in whoever it was.
I want to taper off the military aid within the next 10 years.
That would be a very dramatic shift.
We kept, as you say, American military support to the tune of $3.8 billion a year. Much appreciated. So now in my visit with President Trump, I said, we very deeply appreciate the military aid that America has given us over the years, but here too we've come of age and we've developed incredible capacities. And in our economy, which will soon reach, certainly within a decade, it'll reach about $1 trillion. It's not a huge economy, but it's not a small economy. So I want to taper off the military aid within the next 10 years. That's not saying that I don't want to fight for the allegiance and support of the American people. I do. You have to be crazy not to. And it's something deep. It's not.
You want to taper it off to zero within 10 years?
Yes.
That would be a very dramatic shift.
Well, it's in the works.
My view on this whole thing is the Senate shouldn't be in the business of picking which weapons. No more U.S. military as a financial assistance by the taxpayers for Israel. You're a country like all other allies of ours, Japan, South Korea, the Brits, the Germans. You're going to pay full price. You buy what you want, but you have to abide by the laws. That should be it. I don't think the Senate should be in the place of playing Solomon, that weapon, not that weapon. No more U.S. taxpayer support. It's not where Israel was 20 years ago, not where. And I was in the room when President Obama, largest assistance was under President Obama. We did the funding for the Iron Dome. But here, the days of taxpayers subsidizing Israel militarily, that's over. No more financial aid.
Basically saying the same thing, that they had figured out a different way to fund the Iron Dome that didn't require Congress to keep taking these unpopular votes on this issue. So it was basically a moot point. And all of these conservatives had said it before AOC had said it, right? So I think what you're going to see, in the same way that AIPAC is now using DMFI and other PACs. They're funding Emily's List. They're funding other organizations to get around the stigma of AIPAC. Everyone's figuring out how to get around it and get around the status quo. And I give pro-Palestine advocacy 6 to 12 weeks before it's dead among these progressives, because midterms, they're gonna use it to get through midterms. because there's genuine pro-Palestine, anti-Zionist sentiment in the United States of America. And then it's going to no longer become useful electorally. And we're going to head into 2028. And you know for damn sure no president of the United States is going to take a pro-Palestine position. We're going to get more of this, well, I'm for a ceasefire.
Two-state solution.
Two-step. Exactly.
But that still brings me back to, for us, what does that change?
Okay, but we're getting to that. We're getting to that. Okay. And I know why you're like, okay, but so what? Who cares? So what? Who cares?
It's not so what who cares. It's more so like, we were never approaching victory in my mind. We were not there yet.
Okay, but what I need, my goal, I like you with your green screen back there, because my goal is to get people who sincerely care about Palestine advocacy and can sincerely care about, Medicare for all, which is also about to get, there's some evidence that even Abdul al-Sayed, who was a real Medicare for all champion, is leaning into some of this Medicare for all who want it language. I hope that's not true, but there is some indication of that already. Okay, people who really care about these issues can't stop fighting for them because we're in a existential place as a society. We have an obligation with our position in the imperial core to do what we can to stop this ongoing genocide and any number of other genocides and horrors that are happening in Sudan and other places around the world. And this is failure and lack of confidence in the Democratic Party and democratic entryism is not the end of our political project. And I would like people who still believe to finally get it through their domes that we got to support other third parties. And as long a shot as that is, and as hard it is to build those things, we needed to start building them yesterday, and the next second best time to start is now. Mm-hmm. So that's where I'm going with this. But you can push back against that and have your quibbles.
I don't disagree with that at all. So I think that's actually a useful thing for me to hear personally, because I have just, I supported Butch Ware, right? But I don't live in California, and I am not, because I've disengaged with politics on so many, on a meaningful level publicly. I'm probably not as useful as I could be to actual genuine third parties, not the DSA.
Well, you know who didn't support Butch Ware? Do you know who, in fact, recommended that folks vote for billionaire pro data center Tom Steyer? The California DSA.
Oh yeah, I know. I saw that. But again, it's like, yeah, of course. Water's wet, bears win. Yeah, like it. So I guess but bringing it back to, our job as the talking heads, as the arbiters of takes in this space, is to do exactly what we're doing, and to do it continuously, to stay on people's heads, to illustrate to whoever will listen the folly, the problem, the solution. And when we get to this point where we're frustrated with people not listening, remind them why, this is, I think, I don't want, this is going to sound cynical, but I am cynical. This, like, cynically speaking, having the abject failure of Graham Platner, the incredibly, of course, there's not going to be truth and reconciliation amongst content creators, right? But like,
why can't there be though? Like, I don't want to be fighting with people. I don't want to be calling people Platner leftists for the rest of my life. I'd rather they just be like, yeah, my bad.
Yeah, but
we can all move on.
You don't have to. All you gotta do is win. All you gotta do just keep making dope shit. Your only funky is your next cut is a classic Outcast lyric. And so, like, I don't. And this, when I was in the middle of some nonsense a couple of months ago, I never said anybody's name after a certain point. I never referred to individuals. I still haven't referred to them to this day, because I didn't have to, because the ball was in my court and I was winning, and like, literally that is what we need to continue to do. So it's not so much.
I appreciate your perspective there, but as someone who was fired from her platform for speaking out about Israel, who is so marginalized in the left media space that they're doing that to me, FD. Like, they're doing the thing where they don't speak my name. So I'm not in a position, frankly, if I'm going to be really honest, part of me hopes that after us having this conversation, it makes this case because you are not so ostracized and that you do have a good relationship with Hassan Piker, who was, I believe, also on the first episode. So we had 2 first episodes. There was like we did a first episode and then we did like a prequel episode that we had pre-recorded. And so Hassan was on like the real first episode. You know, I would love a world where we don't have to do weird like sniping and passive. We can have a conversation about our differences of opinion, whether it's about third parties or Kshama Sawant, or whether or not anyone's going to do a real interview with AOC if someone like Hassan, who has access to her, does get access to her again. I would like to have those conversations. I can't. My hope is maybe you can.
I mean, I can try, but I guess, so you make a good point in that I'm maybe speaking from a place of relative privilege in that I have divested from the space in this regard in a lot of ways. And I have the privilege to do so because of, you know, what my platform does for me. So I get that. And I guess I need to hold that. The only thing I'll say, well, number one, it also might be time for a pivot. It might be time for a pivot and a divestment in a similar sense from you, as you kind of have hit the wall where your desire to speak truth to power is no longer going to be tolerated by many of the peers that you've been surrounded by. You might need to hit up then, you know what I'm saying? Like you might need to hit up Deontay Kyle. You might need to hit up Vic Mensa. You might need to, I'm just saying.
You might have noticed that I've been doing a little bit of a black pivot, because I will say, like, I have had, I mean, I don't want to like say prematurely some of the people that I've reached out to who have agreed to come on, but I have had more success in getting very high profile black liberals who very much disagree with me politically on the show.
I see you had old girl on there a little while ago. I didn't even watch that one.
Wait, which one? Who?
I don't even want to say a name. Just know she's one of my least.
No, but
favorite.
I mean, like, for example, like, I'm in conversations. I'll just say one of them. Cut around. Could you please cut around this? I'm sorry, because I just forgot her. I blocked her name. Sorry. I'm in conversation. I have like Donna Brazil has been open to coming on. Right. Why do we live in a world? Right. Why do we live in a world where Donna Brazil is more likely to want to talk to me than Emma Vigeland?
And you can,
like, that makes no sense.
But here's the thing. There is no American left without black people anyway, so fuck these people.
Well, that's kind of how I'm feeling.
That's how you need to. Like, that's just how I feel. Like for real. And the truth is, like, you know, I still have love for a lot of those folks. I don't really have any smoke for anyone that I have or have not mentioned. I disagree. I had a moment where I reacted to a Kyle Kalinske video, and you know, I just corrected something on the record that I thought he got wrong, and it was really all love. I don't know a lot about Kyle Kalinske, and for the most part, he had a respectful response, and it was cool. But like, I am not even like, I am looking at these things and like taking notes and responding when I think it's useful. But I am so invested in engaging with the nascent sleeping giant that is the black left.
Yeah. That
it doesn't make sense to me to be swinging at white leftists on a regular basis.
Yeah, I definitely am feeling
especially
that.
After 5 years. I made Break Bread in 2021. I made Break Bread 2 in 2023. And here I am again, still kind of saying some of the same things. And moreover, the things that I said will continue to happen if things don't change have continued to happen because things have not changed. So why wouldn't I be like, let me go talk to Deontay Kyle or Vic Mensa or Van Lathan, who are some of the more prominent, like they're probably to my right overall, but they're further left than a lot of the white folks that are in this space.
Absolutely. Van did a one-on-one on socialism in the last episode.
Right.
Higher learning.
Yo, so and you know, I mean, we already know, like, aside from the K-Hive and like there's some people, I'm not gonna name names, that are clearly like manufactured NPCs being put to here to stop the popularity of like a Chris Robb or, how you saying that, Daria Eliza?
I think Darliza.
Darliza, like to stop that. Like, despite Mamdani's compromised nature, he is incredibly popular amongst Black people in and outside of New York. That is something to build upon. And we already, and we don't have to go through the fan shit, because that's not a very typical disposition, unless it's Kamala Harris.
Here's the problem. We got to get to the meat and potatoes. We were here almost 2 hours. We got to get to this meat and potatoes. So here we are. Speaking of the King of New York, the King of Mamdanistan, I have us up to, we're still in August, the first week of August 7th. Bernie Sanders gives an interview where he is asked about whether or not he supports the DSA platform, specifically to fund the police. Did you see this one?
No.
All right, got to play this one.
Roll the clip.
Your brand of progressive politics has always been focused on the material needs of working class people. And I would say that to the extent that you've broken from Democratic Party policy, it's usually around economic issues, healthcare, et cetera. There are some DSA candidates today, including some who've won their primaries this cycle, who've also talked about abolishing prisons, defunding or even abolishing the police, abolishing borders. You've never been for any of that. Are you worried that taking those positions, which are unpopular with most voters and even most Democrats, sort of hurt the movement that you've worked really hard to build?
Well, look, people have different views, and what you know as well as I do, that the right wing, that's their job, right? They will take what one person said and put, $80 billion of TV ads on it and make it claim every Democrat supports that. No serious person that I know who is running for office believes in, quote unquote, defunding the police. I was a mayor for 8 years. I worked very closely with cops. They have a very difficult job. Do we need police reform? Do we need to get rid of racism within police departments? Absolutely. Are there jobs that other people can be doing in terms of mental health? Drug addiction that now falls on a cop's shoulders? Yeah, I think we should look at that. But nobody I know, believes in defunding the police in terms of doing away with prisons. I hope the day comes. When we don't lead the world in the number of people who are incarcerated. That speaks very poorly of our society. Yeah. But does that mean that there should not be dangerous people who should be behind bars? Of course, everybody agrees with that. Open borders? No. Most of us believe in comprehensive immigration reform, not opening up all the borders. But a lot of this stuff, as you well know, is what the right wing plays on and multiplies on Fox, 10 times a day and through their ads. But most of the serious candidates that I know and support do not support those things.
All right.
It's the exact same damn answer.
Yep.
And it's interesting. This must have been a memo. Real talk. Because everybody's getting asked the same question, completely different scenario. So we've now had AOC, Bernie, whoever the other white guy was, and Mamdani ask this same question. Fuck, I might need to hit up Canada. They coming.
Also, I didn't play the clip, but there's also a Francesca Hong version of this that I alluded to, and then we can splice in after the fact.
Even yesterday, it looks like you will be the nominee, as another one of your closest competitors, who was even far behind you, has dropped out of the race. Is there anything in that list of what you told Hassan Piker that you disavow now?
No.
Okay. Is there anything in the DSA platform that you disagree with?
Yes.
Okay. What would that be?
Abolishing the Senate. I believe it's nonsensical and non-practical at this time.
Okay. Would you abolish the Supreme Court?
No. I believe in checks and balances.
Okay. So you consider yourself a democratic socialist, is that correct?
Yes.
Would you defund the Department of War?
Define it?
Well,
I think it's
take away the money from the Defense Department?
No, I think it's troubling how many times they've failed an audit, and they're one of the highest funded agency. And I think that stewardship of taxpayer dollars is incredibly important, that where there may be fraud, waste, or abuse, that we make sure to vet the agency.
Okay. Would you advocate for public ownership of America's largest corporations, or those in Wisconsin?
I have to say, first of all, we are incredibly proud of our Green Bay Packers, a publicly owned NFL team. But I believe there are some manufacturing and corporation that is irresponsible to have full public control.
Like what?
No, I think it depends really on the type of mega corporation. We know that here in Wisconsin, we'd like to bring more middle manufacturing, that when jobs were sent overseas, when there was more desire for profit over the people of Wisconsin, that we can be selective and put working class people first when it comes to jobs and mega corporations.
Do you think you would be able to recruit corporations to come to Wisconsin to then be taken over by the state government?
No, I don't think that it would be responsible for the state to bring in a mega corporation. That would potentially be run by the state. I think that we want to create good jobs with good benefits and ensure that people have the freedom to pursue the type of life they would like. And I think when I talk to voters all across the state, it is so much about being able to take care of themselves and their loved ones. There is deep concern about people who get to age with dignity in our state. I care a lot about our seniors and making sure that we're one of the states where there's a great opportunity for great public education.
Okay, so you say people want to take care of themselves, and I agree, but the socialist program is for the government to take care of people. And I know that you've bristled a little bit about anyone pointing out previous things that you have said, but I just want to show everybody on the board here. This is some of your far left posts. I would say they're pretty far left, right? It's, for example, you say abolish the Senate. You want ICE out of Wisconsin. I understand the abolishing ICE is something you probably still want, but you also said to defund the police 4 times. And you want to defund the police as a first step towards abolishing the police. Now, President Trump won Wisconsin twice. It is the ultimate purple state. I set my novel there for a reason. It is the place where you have to have the most appeal to both sides or to independent voters. Why shouldn't people take you at your word when you say that you want to defund the police and go towards abolishing it?
Dana, first of all, I have to say thank you so much for featuring my home state in your novel. And I believe that as a democratic socialist, what that means is that I would like to put working class people first over mega corporations.
How does defunding the police put working class people first? I mean, I think that you're about to enter into a general election, likely with Tom Tiffany, the Republican. That's not going to be an easy race. It's going to be very easy for people to put up on the board and say, you said abolish the Senate, defund the police, abolish the police. And why should they not believe that you would want to do that you would try to do that if you became governor?
I believe that people can evolve. We meet Trump voters from previous elections who now would like to vote for me, who have a sign in their yard.
So who needs to evolve, the voter or you?
The governor cannot defund the police, and I won't defund the police.
So
but
you
I
have
will
evolved.
invest in the things we know prevent crime, like getting guns off of our street, making sure there is victims for justice, that there are, places where our kids can go after school and thrive. We can't be tough on causes. We have to be tough on causes if we would like to be tough on crime. And as governor, I cannot defund the police. And I've reminded folks that I won't defund the police.
Okay. Well, that will be it'll be something that your opponent brings up. Here's a poll from Marquette. Always a good poll. This is Tom Tiffany up at 43 to 40 if you put you two up together. He also has quite a fundraising advantage, but I would say that the DSA candidates have a lot of volunteerism. Do you welcome the DSA endorsement and or volunteers to help on your campaign?
Well, I did not pursue the national DSA endorsement. My home chapter in Madison, we were so proud to run the free school meals campaign to make sure that our kids didn't have lunch debt. And I think that when you look at the polling right now, it's really so much about making sure that we're talking about the issues. And I think that when it comes to my opponent, it's wonderful to see that we have more donors and individual donations that he does, that we already are up in those numbers, because donations from 72 out of 72 counties, every state in the country. And the fact that our ground game is a multiracial, multi-generational, multi-faith.
I've read some pieces, big, long feature pieces where they've talked to. I just want to compliment you. I've read pieces where you've talked to Trump, where the reporters talk to Trump voters and say she's very affable. They kind of like what you have to say. It's going to be an interesting race. We will cover it. I have one last question for you. Are you personally a dues-paying member to the DSA?
In my home chapter in Madison, I have been since 2020, and I believe that as a democratic socialist, I'm less defined by just one organization, but clearly our bipartisan coalition means that I'm more defined by being a good single mom, that I am a service industry worker, that I truly believe in legislation that helps everyone. And these are the things that people want to talk about in rural and urban parts of the state.
All right. Francesca, we are bumping up against a break. We appreciate you coming on.
Dana, thank you so much for having me.
Okay, take care.
Yeah.
Okay, so then Ilhan Omar was asked about Bernie's response to that question. And she clearly was struggling to try to say something sort of legitimate. She's obviously in Minneapolis. She's at the heart of the George Floyd uprising.
Right.
You tell me what you think of her response. Let's go ahead and play it.
I want you to listen to what he told Pod Save America.
No serious person that I know who is running for office believes in quote-unquote defunding the police. Do we need police reform? Do we need to get rid of racism within police departments? Absolutely. Are there jobs that other people can be doing in terms of mental health, drug addiction that now falls on a cop's shoulders? Yeah, I think we should look at that. But nobody I know, believes in defunding the police.
Do you think that's true? Because there are some candidates that are running right now that have previously called for defunding the police.
I mean, in the Democratic Party and in Congress, we oftentimes talk about people voting their district. Obviously, there are some parts of the United States back in 2020 that had some reckoning to do in regards to what it looked like to have a public safety that centered actually safer communities. For us in Minneapolis, with the murder of George Floyd, we had to have a deeper conversation about what really it looked like for us to address public safety here. We had a police department that was essentially problematic. And when that conversation becomes nationalized, then you sort of get the kind of messaging that gets sort of lost in the void. Minneapolis has come a long way. We still have a long way to go. And I think that is sort of what Bernie was speaking to. People essentially do want safer communities. People want the issues that exist with certain police departments, like the Minneapolis Police Department, to be addressed. And people want to have trust in those that seek to serve and protect them.
You can stop there. Or is there worse stuff coming?
I think we should, because she didn't really answer the question, right?
She didn't.
She says she says that people have problems with police departments and are concerned about the behavior of police departments, which is not what Bernie said. And she says we have to figure out how to address that and maintain public safety, which is not what Bernie said.
Bernie wants to wipe off the racism. Just wipe that shit off the front of the box.
Right. End racism. Now I'm sure that's a legitimate policy.
Easy shit.
But Caitlin Clark follows up and says, okay, but what do you think about the fact that there have been candidates who have advocated specifically to defund the police? And Ilhan says,
but do you think it's accurate that as he put it, he said, no serious person I know who's running for office believes in quote unquote defunding the police? Do you think that's true?
I mean, when he says that, I think he's talking about someone putting forth a piece of legislation. And to that regard, I would say that he is right. I haven't seen any pieces of legislation or ordinances come through in the United States since 2020.
This feels like
so there's no legislation.
Yeah.
Sorry?
She's trying to feed two wolves at that point. So there was a memo. That's really interesting to me. Because the thing that nobody has done so far is explain what defund the police actually was meant to be. Right? Like nobody sold defund the police. And she could have easily said, I haven't seen, yes, there are a lot of people that spoke to that. But one thing that's important is to clarify the defund the police didn't mean, the police become gardeners.
It's not abolish.
It's not abolish.
Right. Those are two different goals. And you can believe in both of them or one of them, but it's not abolished.
But it's not the thing you're actually asking me that people are speaking to. So they're really just reaffirming a right-wing framing of the concept and normalizing it within the discourse. And it's like, it's...
So this is why I'm asking the question. All of these interviews are happening, right? Mm-hmm. This is why I'm asking the question and have been asking the question. Is it worth it to get these DSA people elected? Is it worth getting free fast buses if it means they are actively de-radicalizing the population on an issue with as much salience and that once had more people in the street than any other movement in American or global history to fund the police? Is it worth it to fill some potholes for them to be actively persuading Americans to not support defunding the police at the same time that we're having historically large investments in militarizing our police and investing in the surveillance architecture of this country? That is my question.
So the simple answer is no, right? But the thing that I'm stuck on is it also worth your energy, you, Breonna Joy Gray, when the folks, the hands at the lever of this memo that came out and the team sports leftists, I think we'll do that one. Won't do Graham Platner. It's a soft spot. The team sports leftists, we're already kind of entrenched in this, with this energy and in this space to begin with. Is it worth your sanity and energy to scrap with these folks about their entryism when the solution to it remains the same regardless, which is building alternative frameworks of pretty much everything, especially a third party?
Well, I do think it's important. Parties. Like the reason I want to lay this all out, as tedious as it might be, is because unfortunately, when I say, okay, when Force the Vote happened, part of why so many people, there was this break down the middle of the left, was, people didn't like that someone like Jimmy Dore was calling AOC and the rest of the electeds at the time the fraud squad, right? They felt like that was too premature, that it was rude, it was hostile, it was unnecessary and in bad faith to believe that just because AOC didn't agree with a particular strategy to leverage their position in the House to extract concessions from mainstream Democrats, that you would write them all off and throw out the baby with the bathwater. Even I, at the time, despite agreeing with Jimmy Dore on that strategy point, declined from using that language because it felt like the public wasn't there yet. And I stood to lose more of my credibility and being perceived as unfairly hostile and acting in bad faith to AOC than she stood from me calling her that particular phrase. Over time, I believe I have been slowly chipping away at people's trust and faith in these individual members of Congress. But it's been slow going. And I believe that if you don't go at the right pace, you end up losing your credibility in the critiques that you're making. And other people move at different speeds, and I respect Jimmy Dore for being loud and right early, frankly. But now we're at a tipping point where I feel a lot more people are receptive to the idea that what I've been saying all along is right. That the entryism not only doesn't work, but it is causing a backslide and is de-radicalizing the public the same way that Joe Biden's run in 2020, where on the heels of the George Floyd movement, he said, gosh, guys, if you want me to beat Trump, you got to shut up with all of this Black Lives Matter stuff. And everybody agreed, right? He killed Black Lives Matter.
But so I think the flaw in your logic there is even using the term de-radicalize. Because that insinuates that folks were radicalized in the first place.
Oh, but FD, over 50% of the country to not just support Black Lives Matter in the spring of 2020, they supported burning down a police station. It was like almost 60% of Americans supported burning down a police station. That's how radical they were after watching George Floyd get murdered on camera.
Yeah, we had them for a second, but
okay. And then why did we lose them? The narrative is that we lost them because, people just woke up. But no, they were actively persuaded by the Democratic Party led by Joe Biden to relinquish their ideological commitments because they had to trade them to defeat Trump. And we're doing the same kind of negotiation right now with the left, who's supposed to have these ideological commitments as core commitments in exchange to get DSA elected in the Democratic Party, where they are going to be silenced the same way that AOC has been silenced and corralled by Mama Bear, into having absolutely no adversarial relationship, and in fact positioning herself to be, frankly, the vice president pick in 2028, which is what I think is happening right now.
Yeah, I think my other theory is probably Newsom AOC 2028 or some type of combination. But yeah, so I still like the running joke in like Black Twitter at the time was, them white folks dealt with racism for like 3 weeks, and they was like, hey, all right, this is hard. Y'all be doing this all the time? Shit, that is a lot. And so,
but I don't think that that's right. I don't think that's what happened.
I just disagree. I just disagree that I think what you're calling radicalized is reactionary.
It is a reaction to a perceived reality that Black people had been perceiving for a very long time that had just become legible to white people because of body cams and then or cell phone videos and the nature of the internet and the way that sort of thing could disseminate. So no longer was this he said, she said crap or police suppressing body cam footage. We saw on camera the reality of a certain kind of experience between Black people and the police, and white Americans were horrified by it, and COVID, and there were other factors. And I'm not saying that it was 100% not influenced by the fact that people were home and irritated about other things, etc. But let me give you another example, if I just may. Mm-hmm. Also, during the summer of 2020, there was a 20-point swing in favor of fracking that happened over the course of that summer, over like a 2-month period. Now, why was that? Why did Democrats go from disfavoring fracking to having a 20-point swing in favor of fracking? It's because Joe Biden got up on the podium and said, if you want to beat Donald Trump, we have to win Pennsylvania. And if you want to win Pennsylvania, we have to support fracking. Now, was that true? No. There's 17,000 fracking jobs in Pennsylvania. If you wanted to win Pennsylvania, you could have tried, supporting raising the minimum wage, since it's one of the only blue states that still has a federal minimum wage, and there's over 50,000 Pennsylvanians who earn a minimum wage salary, right? That's one way to go. But just because people were so afraid of Donald Trump, they were willing to say fracking is good now. And I would argue similarly, they were willing to say, we're going to say we need to fund the police harder, which was a very clear message that Joe Biden ran on. We need to fund the police harder. And in fact, we did.
They gave up.
And he increased federal grants for policing. He encouraged people to use their COVID funding on policing. And every major police department in the country has had increased funding year over year since 2020. Mm-hmm. Which is why it's so rich that somehow all the problems in the world are because of defund, a policy that never went into effect.
That's another thing that I know all these people know. All these motherfuckers you just showed me know that police budgets have went up since 2020.
Yes.
Fuck these niggas, like Brianna.
okay, but let me close the loop. Let me close the loop because we're getting go ahead. I don't mean to interrupt you.
No. I can't remember what I was about to say. I had another zinger and I can't remember what it was, but maybe it'll come.
Okay, because now here we are. We're finally at woke point one. We're at woke point one. So on August 7th, Abdul wins. Harris endorses him, and he is very appreciative of this endorsement. He goes out of his way to say how amazing this endorsement is. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then on August 9th, we get the famous clip. Let's roll that famous. Well, let's set up a little bit.
I did see
clear,
because you showed this.
To be clear, Chi Ossé, I'm just going to pretend that no one's ever heard of this before, because I do think that some people are going to need the evidence. I have to make the case that I'm not being histrionic in bad faith, that I have come to my cynicism about these DSA leftists authentically. Okay. Chi Ossé who is a New York City DSA, or I think it was some involvement in city council. I'm not sure exactly what, but he had some position. He's not no one from nowhere. He was floating the idea of running against Hakeem Jeffries in this very primary process that we're in the middle of. Mm-hmm. Zohran Mamdani, having just won his primary, went to the DSA, New York DSA meeting and advocated against Chi Ossé, who was a supporter and campaigner for Zohran Mamdani and apparently a friend, to vote for the DSA to vote to not endorse Chi's run against.
I remember this.
Okay. He is, of course, one of the biggest, loudest Zionists and biggest recipients of Israeli money in all of Congress. Okay, Hakeem Jeffries is. Who said, Israel today, Israel tomorrow, Israel always, like Bull Connor. Okay, great.
Fuck.
The same Chi Ossé, a little while ago, tweets out this tweet about how woke 1.0 was crazy. The original woke was crazy. Now, in this interview, AOC cites him and says, I have a friend in response to a question specifically about defund. Now, a lot of leftists who have defended AOC in this moment want very badly for us to believe that she was talking about some woke excesses that we can all agree on.
Latinx.
Latinx, who AOC was the queen of Latinx. I can't even think of anybody in my life who I ever really saw say Latinx who wasn't named AOC. Okay, but we're all supposed to believe that AOC, who with her staged crying photos at the border camps and the Latinx, that's what she was disclaiming, not defund. But let's just play the clip so the people can hear the question was clearly about defund and all of these DSA candidates and their previous support of defund.
It's possible to win the Senate. So I've been focused on those legislative races.
What do you make of those controversial statements? I'm sure you've seen. I mean, she's, the Thanksgiving dust up. Mm-hmm. She says she doesn't, still believe that, but, the abolished prisons, abolished police, which is also positions that have been taken by a lot of the progressive candidates who have won. Mm-hmm. How do you get around that?
Yeah.
I mean, those are not positions that are supported by.
Right. I think that a lot of these races, even right now, they'll have a tendency to be nationalized. Yeah. But these races ultimately are local, and all politics are local. My understanding is that that Francesca Hong has made clear her present stances to her electorate.
Yeah, she's moved away from a lot of that.
Right, she's moved away from it. And I have a local city councilman that has this saying woke one was crazy.
Woke one was crazy. Okay, that's interesting.
And I think that what's important is that we have to assess what
was it. I mean, did the movement go too far with some of those positions? I mean, you briefly supported the idea of defunding the police.
Well, I think that during this time and especially during COVID, there was a huge opening of the Overton window. We were shut down. There was some of the highest unemployment rates that we have seen because of those shutdowns. Yeah. And I think that the doors were really open in trying to entertain any and every policy that was going to get us to a better place. And I actually think that the discussions that were had in that time were quite fruitful. I think that when we talk about crime today, it's fundamentally different than the way that we talked about crime in bringing crime down, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that we all share in the goals of having as low a crime rate as possible. I think that, during lockdown, of course, rhetoric in that time is not rhetoric that we would use today. And I'm grateful that these candidates have the opportunity to present who they are to their electorate and what they're campaigning on in this moment.
So this again brings, you can stop.
Okay.
This again brings you back to the fact that these people aren't dumb TM, right? Meaning that while this may be a foolish endeavor, this is not an accident. This is not without some calculus on their part. This is clearly coordinated if this all happened within the same week. The whatever was happening with Chi Ossé in the background, I got wind immediately that this was a measure against political maneuvering for the future. So, maybe there's some 7D chess that they're playing that's going to get us free. They're going to all.
No. I'm so tired of that. I'm so tired. I've been
not saying
hearing that for my entire life.
No. I agree. Please don't make it seem like that's what I was actually saying. But like, my point is that whatever they're doing it with intention and coordination and conviction. And we have to kind of have the same, keep that same energy with them.
Speaking of, why? What is AOC getting out of this? Let's roll this clip. It's from August 11th, from Nancy Pelosi. Mama Bear asked about what she thinks of AOC.
I think that she has been so operational and just wonderful. I know it's a joy to work with her, and I think most members think that, and certainly Hakeem.
And by the way, there's no higher praise in the Nancy Pelosi dictionary or in issues for that matter than operational. You say operational, that is high praise for Nancy Pelosi, believe you me.
So, I mean, AOC was early on the controlled opposition candidate, like the figure out of the squad. Like she kind of emerged as that almost immediately. So, I guess I keep coming, and I hate that I can't be more engaging around it or even like share your outrage. But this to me is like, I have 2 children. And this to me is like being mad at them for not knowing how to do things that children don't know how to do. I
respect your position, but I gotta say, FD, like, I'm not telling you how to live your life, and I know people have friendships, and I'm not trying to be annoying. But you have to know that many of your friends, many of the people that you are liaising with, very much not. I would love to hear you on stream tell Hassan Piker that you think AOC is control opposition. I suspect there's going to be some pushback.
First off, no new friends. It's the one time I'll quote Drake. Let's be clear about that. The friends I have in this industry know my real name. I have peers, collaborators, and acquaintances, and then motherfuckers I know.
Okay, I want you to talk to some of your peers / collaborators
and people I fuck with. But I've said this privately to Hassan that he is playing a dangerous game by cashing in a lot of his the trust and the credibility is built up to hopefully get something done with the DSA. I think from his perspective, it's worth it. I think if I give him one thing is that if and when it blows up, you can't say he didn't try. And I hope he comes out in a full, like speaking full Arabic for like 3 streams straight, just to scare off all the people that he brought in with the suits. I am so cynical and pragmatic about this stuff. I just really am because I was there for Obama 08. I remember people passing out at Obama rallies like they were Michael Jackson concerts, right? Mm-hmm. And in retrospect, I've talked to my peers and elders who were radical figures in the moment that saw the reality of Obama coming, that realized they couldn't do anything about it, and then themselves said, it's not like this actually changes anything. And actually, no, I actually have to pull that back. What it did change, specifically for Black people, right? Shout out to the late Glenn Ford. He has there's a talk on Cam about the Blackness leadership class, and there's several articles he's written on the Black Agenda Report. Excuse me, that he talks about the fact that it was Obama who normalized American imperialism among Black people, among Black liberals and moderates. And that is just kind of the calculus that this game has for so many people. But that's also what the game is in perpetuity. And so as folks cash in chips and make, decisions about, their political moves and who they want to back and what team they want to root for, and we see, inspiring victories with a Chris Robb and some of the other people we talked about that, got wins early. And we see not so inspiring victories from this cavalcade of jesters that you just showed me. The end result is our role is to educate and critique and speak truth to power. And while these platforms dictate and so many other variables dictate whose voice gets amplified, whose voice gets marginalized, the game don't stop. To quote, oh God, I'm about to embarrass myself and fuck up his name. To quote the great, cut around that.
Okay.
To quote Nipsey Hussle, the marathon continues. So,
we were born on the exact same day.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Same day, same year.
So my thing to say to you, Brianna, is come through. It's lit. Like, there is a limitation to the political project. It's to any political project built around
to be
whiteness.
Clear, what we're doing is trying to convince people who aren't where we are that there is this limit, that the DSA is a limit and not evidence of progress, and then offload that, like push them into a different kind of organization.
Exactly.
Or to do entryism and maybe change the DSA. I know that there are factions within the DSA who very much want it to behave differently, and I'm rooting for them, right? Hashtag not all DSAers. But just to close the loop, this is the ultimate nail in the coffin when our very own Zohran Mamdani, who once said, I don't have this clip on hand, but we can splice it in later, but who once said, when the NYPD boot was on your neck, it was laced up by the IDF.
The importance for me of international solidarity is that it takes me out of the American political landscape and reminds me just how tame some of the things are that I'm actually calling for. That I support. And it reminds me of the necessity of grounding ourselves in the struggles as opposed to the fights around the struggles. For anyone to care about these issues, we have to make them hyperlocal. We have to make clear that when the boot of the NYPD is on your neck, it's been laced by the IDF. We are in a country where those connections abound, especially in New York City. You have so many opportunities to make clear the ways in which that struggle over there is tied to capital's interest over here.
And who in that clip specifically connected the leftist anti-imperialist project in fighting for liberation in Palestine to the imperial boomerang and the suppression of people here at home. Got up on the stage this morning as we're recording this on August 12th and was asked a question, the same question, to your point, that seems to have gone out in this memo about whether or not he supports his past position on defund and the position that has been taken by these other candidates. Let's roll the clip.
Do you think Woke One was crazy?
Look, I think that each person has a responsibility to tell New Yorkers, to tell Americans when they're running for office what they believe. And sometimes what you believe can change, it can develop, it can grow. And I know that there are some for whom they still believe in that. I've made very clear that I do not believe in defunding the police, that I will not be defunding the police. And that to me, delivering critical public safety also looks like working with our police department alongside many other partners. And we've seen over the first 7 months of this administration what that can look like when we're talking about the fewest murders on record in New York City, the fewest shooting incidents on record in New York City. And that to me is how we measure a lot of our public safety.
Thank you. We're going to
you have to release this as a separate, like, you have to cut out all of our tangents, or most of our tangents, and release as a separate video reacting to the same talking points by your DSA faves. Because it really, like, it's funny because I saw the the AOC one and I saw that one. I didn't see any of these other ones, and it didn't connect with me that it was the same question and the same talking point until you showed them all in a row, which fucking bravo to catch that. I hope that people appreciate and that's kind of what I'm talking about. Just stay on their head, like Bree. Stay on their heads with exactly what you're doing. Sorry, I'm sorry.
No, I'm not mad at it. It made me smile. So my brother calls me.
Yeah, stay on their heads about this, because that's our job. You know, and that's what, again, when I go back to my mild critiques of insert, you know, favorite team player here in the last year. So in fact, my first thing about Mamdani before, like in the middle of him running, as he was starting to pick up steam, was basically being like, I've seen this before, so you know, I hope it works out for y'all. You know, like it was pretty light. And boy, they was on my head in the comment section for a second. And I didn't really pay too much attention to it. And then I made one, that on my real side channel, Signified B-Sides, that really got a lot of people upset, including, and it wasn't until Black folks in New York hit me up and said, I really don't appreciate the way this came off. You should really rethink this. That I said, okay, once I have people that again know my real name that said, maybe rethink this one. And
so, which direction? They thought you were being too hard on him or too easy?
They thought I was being too hard on him. And specifically, the critique I had was, there's actually a lot of really good people, really solid people doing this work. And so while you maybe aren't wrong to critique Mamdani, you should show more respect and graciousness to the young people specifically, where, yeah, maybe this looks just like Barack Obama, but like you have to, the thing I caught from it was, I'm old. You know what I'm saying? I'm jaded. I have died inside. I shouldn't be encouraging that in the youth. I should let them die a natural death, right? And so I took it upon myself to soften, be more explicit and clear, and I literally basically redid the video, except I went at your boy in the second one at Bernie Sanders, because to me it's kind of the same. It's kind of the same problem and framework.
100%.
And so, but I did that not because you know I needed another Nebula read check, or because it was another piece of content to put out. Is because I understand my role. I've been blessed with algorithmic juice for a while. I've been blessed with people taking me seriously and caring about what I think about most things. It's sometimes is a curse, but I have certain beliefs that are not overly popular in the space I occupy. They're not popular enough in the Black spaces I occupy. But at least in the Black spaces, it's a much more comfortable struggle. It's a struggle that doesn't have the same pitfalls and the same raw points that I just don't like dealing with. But the bottom line is, the job I have is saying the unpopular thing as loud as I possibly can to the people that need to hear it the most. And so as this is a perfect time to, I don't know who's popping in the Green Party, but I don't know who's popping in any other parties, but this is a perfect time to, get those balls rolling, to bring them on the show, to interview them about the difference between what is happening with the DSA and what you want to happen.
And I have and I will. I've got some good. I met a lot of amazing Greens. I went to the Green Party conference in Chicago a couple of weekends ago, and have some stuff lined up to talk to people who are launching campaigns, who have been running campaigns, people who were there when the Green Party was founded that can tell me some lore. The inter-party debates that have been going on. Like, people need to become familiar with what's going on there, the good, bad, and the ugly, the same way that there is a certain legibility about the DSA now that so many folks are involved. Yeah. And it makes national news when DSA does X, Y, and Z. I see it as part of my project cultivating that.
if I could just jump in real quick, that's kind of why I'm not so frustrated by this, because I would love to have the DSA as my ops, as like the big bad in the room. That sounds great. If I, I would love to make
FD,
it.
the problem is that they're not. The problem is if they were like actual ops and openly antagonistic, which by the way, it's a little bit mask off. I think the Kshama stuff and the maniacal laughter and joy that these people have taken in watching a socialist lose to a Zionist warmonger, I think has been mask off for some folks. But generally speaking, they are antagonistic, and in fact, then we
antagonize, then swing on them.
Well, that's the problem. It's been a very delicate balance, and so far, my marginalization is largely a consequence of my trying to, even as gently as I've been doing it, call out the failures of these DSAers. And it's only like literally 6 years into this. I just did my 600th episode. I started in the fall of 2020.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But Force the Vote was in like the fall of 2020. The vote that didn't happen was going to be in January of 2021. Like, it is only now that we're finally starting to break through. And there's still people who are like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited that Kamala Harris looks like she's turning it around. I mean, like a woman that I really like and respect. I saw this tweet. I was like, what on earth? And so it's an uphill battle. But I will say this. One last clip. Did you see the end of that DSA interview where AOC herself disavows the DSA?
Are you still a member of Democratic Socialists of America?
Of the New York City chapter.
The New York City chapter, not the national.
Now, my friend, that face is appropriate because that is not a thing. That's like saying, hey, FD, are you an American? And you're like, no, I'm from Atlanta. You're in Atlanta, right? No, I'm from Atlanta. Georgia. Sorry. I'm a Georgian.
Well, better yet, are you from Georgia? Like, no, I'm in Atlanta, which is actually kind of makes sense. Low key, that's a bad example. I get your overall point.
But you know what I mean? Like, are you a human being? No, I'm a man.
You're right.
I mean, okay. Like, it's not a thing just to be a member of your local chapter and not the national organization.
Not the national organization,
okay.
Yeah.
But this is the desperation of the rats fleeing the ship of principles. Because as much as I'm frustrated by the DSA's behavior at times, their principles, their charter, their beliefs that were democratically voted on, I agree with. Mm-hmm. And I defended recently on Piers Morgan without equivocation. Because it's not hard. And I tried to make the case for defund as I was being talked down and talked over by a hostile panel. But that's, I feel like, the role that we should have as people who are avowed socialists in the public space, especially someone like myself who's not running for anything. All the people who've come on my show over the years and tried to pick a fight about defund when they're not even running for office, I'm like, you could have been opening your mouth to make the case for why people should believe in this. But this is another thing that I have observed is that part of the PSYOP is getting people to engage in this fallacy that defund is a bad slogan. And the same way that you saw the pattern emerge of everyone asking the same question and giving the same answer over all these clips, over the last 5-6 years since 2020, another PSYOP has been getting people to debate the idea that defund is a bad slogan. Well, they're never asked to opine on whether or not they believe in the underlying premise and whether or not they will take any time or energy to explain what it means. Because while you might argue something about abolish being obscure, defund could not be more literal. It is not a bad slogan, in fact. And when I was
even more easy to prove, like even like the data on police budgets and what they've been the whole time, but especially since defund was a slogan. It is literally one of the easiest things to prove and support.
Yes. And as Alec Katsanis has been pointing out, author of Propaganda, the what defund is actually very popular in polls. Mm-hmm. And so in order to convince people not to support defund, they have to disaggregate defund from what it actually means, which is why the PSYOP has been get people to debate defund. And people won't notice that people who, woke one is crazy. Like, think about it. AOC, Zohran is an exceptional political talent. We saw him make
Donald Trump rub his hand affectionately.
Right, but also we saw him make From the River to the Sea palatable.
Right.
We saw him make Israel doesn't have a right to defend itself palatable. Right? He didn't back away from any of that stuff. We saw him use his rhetorical skills to move the Overton window on that. But whenever he's been asked about defund, there has never been even one fraction of a second where he tried to explain what it meant and why he previously believed in it.
So what is that's interesting. So I got to put my Hotep hat on real quick.
Please. What
is the play there? Aside from, the core of anti-blackness at the whole of this 1.1 shit. Because you made a good point that I hadn't engaged with about the ability of these institutions to redirect funds to Israel without
having to vote. Because the votes are not popular on the right or the left.
Right. And so they can keep the slush fund going without sacrificing political power, which will work perfectly for a lot of Americans, because a lot of Americans, don't know and don't care much about what's happening internationally. And so there's that, right? So From the River to the Sea thus becomes much less of a threat, much less of a danger. But clearly defund the police still is. And as I sit in the shadow of a cop city here in Atlanta, right? And I know there's one in Baltimore. They're trying to build one in Buffalo, New York, and I know there's several have been built elsewhere. I can't help but, get a little paranoid as to why this would be such a coordinated discourse from our furthest left figures. It's just
that's such an
but we did question. But we did just update my children's passports.
Well, let's take just 1 or 2 minutes to explore that, because I do think it's a very important question. Now, let's put my tinfoil hat on, and I hope to have some guests on to explore this, but my off-the-cuff belief before vetting is that what we do know is that we have a surge of investment in AI data centers, in AI technology, an emerging of these tech companies like
Planeteer, but the people that Westmore left Planeteer for, I can't remember their names. Perceptor.
Okay, and also Elon Musk being the number one recipient of defense contracts. Our whole I had a great interview with Anita Saychan about the explicit plans of these tech billionaires to reshape our world, where they no longer need humans to do most jobs. They have AI sentience, basically causing mass unemployment. That's where some of these Andrew Yang style universal income plans come in, not because of the generosity of giving people universal income, but to stem the flow of outright rebellion and people dying in the street, right? In this new world we live in. And how do you keep people from rebelling in the street? If there is mass unemployment, as they say, and our whole sort of social contract comes crumbling around our ears because of this new technology and the embeddedness with our government, what do they need to do to keep us from burning it all down and coming for their heads?
Judge Dredd. Are you familiar?
Remind me what Judge Dredd was.
Judge Dredd is a post-apocalyptic dystopian comic series where Judge Dredd is a police officer. The police have been flattened into literally judge, jury, and executioner, where they catch a person in the act of a crime and will arrest, convict, and judge in the moment as to make more expedient the resources needed for police.
Yes.
Or
like Minority Report.
Yeah, Minority Report. Well, I feel like more like Minority Report's, I think, not nice enough. It's too nice for what they have planned for us. I really want you, if you could just splice a little Judge Dredd world, either
we'll see what we can do.
Not the Stallone one, the Carl Urban one. I think that one was a more true to the nature of the comic for me, but I may be wrong. Like the comic book nerds always get mad when you misrepresent some shit. But
so yeah, that's what we're doing. We're doing. There's a article about pre-crime I just saw in the last couple of days. The flock cameras are flocking. The cop cities are being built. They are ratcheting up criminal penalties for even property damage. They just sent RICO charges. Yeah, go ahead.
I was about to say they just sent the folks, I believe that was in Texas, for moving books to like 50, 100 years sentences.
Yep.
For fireworks that didn't hurt anybody.
Yep. And in this environment, Zohran Mamdani, to be clear in that clip, didn't just say, I disavow defund. He specifically at the end of that clip made a connection between public safety and low crime rates in New York and having not defunded the police, which is an outright lie. He made the case in that clip for a correlation between police funding and public safety, which again, I think is so dangerous and not just maintaining a status quo, but actively walking us back from our ideals as the left and the progress that had been made in 2020.
Yeah. So,
in this environment. Yeah, go ahead.
To me, it sounds like you and Hassan should just talk.
I would love to. I would love to.
You know,
and
I'm sure he'll see this.
him.
Well, you know, so I've always been able to reach Hassan whenever he gets around to it and vice versa. But we don't have like, me and Hassan are cool and we're on speaking terms and I have respect for Hassan. Hassan, as I've been, I hate that this clip has been used so much, but like Hassan has been supportive of a variety of things that I've been connected with in the past. So like, you know, hit that boy up and y'all hash it out. And I think the times I've seen Hassan engage with this stuff, he's not as far from you as you might think, or at least from what I perceive having this conversation with you, but he is deeply embedded in this wave that he's been trying to help push forward.
Yeah.
And I think he sincerely believes that he's doing something meaningful.
And God bless him. We might be in different places about that, but I'm not angry. I'm not frustrated. I don't have any quibble with that. I also have candidates on Democrat. I had Oliver Larkin on recently. I think he's the best of the bunch, the current bunch. I would love to talk to Chris Robb. I would love to talk to some of the old guard squad members. Like Summer Lee is one of my favorites. I would obviously love to talk to Rashida Tlaib. I mean, like I'm kind of let many flowers bloom. I don't think that most of them are hurting anybody. I do think that statements like what Zohran just made and what AOC just made, now we're getting into active harm. But not all of them are doing active harm. Oliver Larkin has been defending defund, as has Chris Robb, as did Dara Lisa, as did Claire Chevalier. And those people, by the way, also didn't preemptively say that they were going to endorse Hakeem Jeffries for Speaker of the House. Mm-hmm. Some of these new guys, including that William guy, Will Lawrence, have said they were going to pre-endorse Hakeem Jeffries, and I think Citations Needed has done such an amazing job of being very clear about how incompatible a pro-Palestine message is with this weird fidelity.
Overt Zionists.
Exactly. It's just fundamentally incompatible, which is why also I'm very concerned about the trajectory of pro-Palestine advocacy. Did midterms.
Have AOC and Mamdani endorsed Jeffries?
Yes, very much so. We can splice in those every time it comes up on the show. I want to splice it in.
Democrats win the midterms. Do you want to see Leader Jeffries become the Speaker of the House?
Yes.
Okay, that was a firm, quick answer.
For me, and we have a broad caucus, right? For me, I have made very clear that one of my priorities in determining and in a leader determination is securing public housing financing for New York City. And Leader Jeffries has made his prioritization for the residents of public housing very clear. And for that reason, I will be supporting Hakeem Jeffries for leader.
Because people need to know that I'm not being histrionic and unfair, that these people, Zohran Mamdani isn't even in Congress. He could have said, I'm not in Congress and it's none of my business. I'm the mayor of New York. I'm focused on New York. But he said
that so many times. It's crazy that.
Exactly. So what's afoot? Do you know what I mean? Why does he have to say, yes, I support Hakeem Jeffries as Speaker of the House, a house I'm not in? That's not my house.
It's so funny. I had the same conversation offline with another creator a couple of months ago while in Canada because I was scouting. I was scouting around my birthday, like, yeah, can I do this? Can I be around this many non-Americans? Hey, that's what I meant to say. And like I said something because the thing that I peeped when I was looking into Platner is that Platner, Mamdani, the mayor here in Atlanta, and so many of these folks are fight agency creations. And the fight agency has clearly hacked the team sport leftist brain, recognizing what buttons need to be pushed to what degree, in what situation, and in what context, to get people to lower their critical faculties and focus on the catharsis of winning for once, right? And I said in this conversation, it's kind of scary to that they have hacked the ostensible left and are now, I'm starting to get tired too. I'm sorry. That they basically hacked our brain and figured out what makes us tick, and which means that they've already kind of cornered the market on where any of this can go, and it might be too late to stop it at scale. I don't think so personally, but it's something to be mentally prepared for. The one thing I had it and I lost it because I am getting sleepy. I'm gonna let us go. It's almost midnight. I get up early. I gotta send kids to school. No,
I know. Apologies if this comes out a little bit late, but we had to get it in there. No, I agree. I agree about the scale of the challenge. But when I say it, I mean this fully with my whole chest as a compliment to Hassan Piker. When Crystal Ball says that he was instrumental in the Abdullah Saeed race and that he has real power, I think that is correct. He's not invincible. He's not responsible for Francesca Hong losing. I think she did better because of his influence than otherwise, but I think he has real reach and power. Okay. And to that end, I think if anyone is in a good position to influence folks to having higher scrutiny of these DSA candidates and to introduce them to other alternatives, other organizations that have a more adversarial and more cynical relationship, skeptical relationship to the Democratic Party. And if he shares these concerns about whether or not the Democratic Party is co-opting the left versus the left actually influencing the Democratic Party, I think no one's better positioned than him to influence. Now, he can say that's not fair. Anybody can say that's not fair to put on Hassan, just like people said it wasn't fair for me to say that Breaking Point's had an obligation to interview Kshama Sawant. People can have their differences of opinion. But I don't think that we can have it both ways and sort of laud the influence of the online left and then disclaim responsibility when we can see patterns that are destructive to our ostensible shared goals.
Yeah. Like I think you make a good point. It kind of corrects some of the ways in which I was engaging with the topic. Because so the only thing I'll say is that this is a very immature power that we're wielding. The thing I talk about a lot, but this is usually around engaging with Black moderates and liberals who are who feel unsafe by this sudden rise of DSA power or sudden rise of to the left of the Democrats' power and attention, and notice the sometimes overt, definitely often covert racism within white leftist spaces and be like, y'all are dealing with this. This is supposed to be the progressives. What I often say in regards to those conversations is that the left being in this position is new, where we are now wielding influence and authority and power in a way that we haven't in a generation for the first time.
If ever.
Right, if ever, if now.
Yeah.
He's keeping it 100%.
Yeah.
But so instead of thinking this is our own, the way I look at it is that instead of thinking that this is our only shot at the crown, our only shot at the throne, I'm thinking about this as a window. And as these DSA folks reveal their true colors, we can collect data, we can readjust. And for us, the job does not change at all. That speak truth to power, present critiques, survive the onslaught of bad faith responses and the blackballing that you're experiencing, and then kind of rinse and repeat, because you're not the only person that sees what's happening. You're not alone in recognize, like, this is a discussion because people are like, fuck you mean woke 1.0? That's what I want. Just real quick, the anti-blackness of it all. I haven't got a chance to speak to that.
Yeah, please.
Just like, first starting with the fact that woke was appropriated, right? Woke was appropriated. This is a black term from fucking 60s and 70s that had existed amongst us since then. The crazy of woke 1.0 is that it ever escaped like our spaces and to become normalized in the discourse, right? Now, if you say woke 1.0 is crazy and you show me Nancy Pelosi and Kente Cloth kneeling in the middle of the state building, I'm with you.
Right.
I'm with you.
That was woke 2.0 though. Like, if anything,
I don't know.
That was after, to your point, it escaped containment.
Right. Right.
And became weaponized by a bunch of corporatists and bad faith actors, right? We all agree that was bad. I started my whole career in media writing about how that was bad, right? Which is why this is so frustrating.
Right. So if you're telling me that woke 1.0 is that and Latinx and things along those lines, things that, like, the thing that I got to come back to, especially as we talk about the anti-blackness of it all, is that anti-blackness isn't just being mean or rude or quasi-racist to black people. It is the way in which blackness is commodified and utilized to drive relations of power for other people without our best interest given any regard in the moment. And one of the things about Black Lives Matter, which we also have to remember, was itself co-opted almost immediately once this started happening, right? Is that Black Lives Matter became, for some, not all, but for so many of the figures we're kind of alluding to throughout this conversation, a way to demonstrate their value and identity as people with good politics, more than in anything that had to do with the Black lives that are supposed to matter.
Yeah, they clearly never meant it. Like, I've seen some tweets along these lines that what you're seeing now is folks who are expressing resentment about feeling compelled to sort of bend the knee, as it were, to an ideology in 2020 that they felt like socially pressured to subscribe to, but that they never really meant. And now they're all,
that was crazy. Remember when Black lives were mattering? Just because they got shot and killed by police a few times? Yeah. That's been happening the whole time. The problem is they killed George Floyd and we didn't burn everything down.
Yeah.
And once these folks understood that everything wasn't going to come down, it was all negotiable.
Yeah.
It was all on the table for reassessment and exchange.
And specifically, sorry, this just came to my brain. It might even be the case that the success of Biden's election in 2020 as a tool to suppress the uprising might have even been the lesson that the establishment learned to say, oh, we can use electoralism to talk the left out of their beliefs. Oh, Biden proved the case.
And so that's the only thing I don't know. I struggle with the talk the left out of their beliefs point, because I don't know.
You think they never believed?
Yeah,
believe it or not, they were burning down police stations and in the streets.
To talk them down off the ledge, maybe.
We can talk them out of their actions, which are riotous and rebellious.
Right.
We can talk them out of acting.
Which is historically a consistent strategy of, the administrators.
Yeah.
So that circles back to our job is to, as folks step off the ledge and folks put down the Molotovs and the bricks, remind them why they picked them up in the first place, coax them back into a greater interrogation of the feelings that brought them to that point. Cheerlead the ones that remain. And I'm of the belief that further time and effort doing that, even now, as I think this moment of complete failure by these figures to hold the line on what is literally in their constitution, right, is a great teachable moment. Yeah. It's not time for us to say, we told you so. It's time to say, hey, so this is happening. Here's what it means. I'm going to connect this dot for you. Here's maybe what you could do next. Come back next week, for more, et cetera, et cetera. And it's honestly not the time, going back to the whole Kayfabe Mark team sports conversation, it's not the time to do the full on insert Platner left figure here is lying to you videos. Because while those will, get a nice amount of clicks, and they will, create discourse. From my experience, those really don't push people that much. Those really just activate fandoms. Those activate fandoms and anti-fandoms, to be more specific.
That's probably true. I will say, though, that most of these people, again, I hope to be on the same side of. I acknowledge that we overwhelmingly agree on things, and I don't want there to be I disagreed with how Emma Vigeland handled that interview. I will criticize how she handled the interview. I don't this is not an attack on Emma Vigeland as a human being, right? I think she did not do that well. Okay, but that's the critique. It's not oh my God, I hate Emma Vigeland. You know what I mean?
Right. So, but once it becomes content, it becomes, oh my God, I hate Emma Vigeland.
Well, I was just going to say it is the case that there are some people for whom that is tipped over to, I think you were actively, intentionally destructive as opposed to just having a difference of opinion with me. And I'm wrestling with my obligation to stack up the same way I kind of presented the evidence here in these clips, to present the evidence of certain bad actors' behavior over the course of years where they always seem to pop up, enabling the betrayals that we've been describing this whole episode. But that's for me to decide. But I agree with you on the whole that is not where the priority lies. And that I should probably do some kind of radar that makes a shorter version of this for people who don't want to sit here for 2.5 hours and listen to this episode.
Going on three.
Although you, since this is your area of expertise in your wheelhouse, if you wanted to make a video essay making the case in 40 minutes that we just made in 2.5, 3.
No, it'd be definitely just as long. Come on now. It'd be just as long. Yeah, because I'd have to do all the historical context and bring it back, and I got to have at least 2 music videos in the middle of it. If it's going to be an FD Signifier production, it's going to have all the things I like to put in my content. For me, I'm retired from this shit. You are my last match in terms of. No, I'm not. But I am not yelling at white leftists about the shit they do anymore, or at least I'm going on an extended break. I just did this video with Kshama Sawant. It was really about Palestine. I got this Black Mixed Leadership video that is suddenly turning into something talking about a certain rapper that I don't want to talk about right now.
Okay.
And you just search my name. it's out there. And then I'm doing a video on battle rap. And then I'm talking about the Black church then I had a video. I got a video on Africa and what's happening in Sudan and the Congo and Africa in general that I had to shelve because of, the maneuverings of all these different things. White people ain't on my agenda. And like, if I could give you one piece of advice as we end, you might want to clear your agenda a little bit, Brianna.
Well, you didn't like that I had Yvette Carnell on, apparently. Can't you see this pivot?
That's different. That's the. But I appreciate it. Well, I appreciated the debate pervert in me appreciated watching her try to defend her quasi-white nationalist black organization.
Okay, now she made it clear. Maybe it was part of the paywall part. I don't remember what part we put out there. But don't confuse. I think it is fair to say the FBA is not the same as the ADOS.
Yeah, because FBA never officially worked with white supremacists. And
no, the FBA. What are you talking about?
ADOS had white supremacists on their board.
What white supremacists?
I'm going to Google this real quick. ADOS.
Because FBA are the ones that are
FBA are the biggest weirdos. I'll give you that.
They are really bigoted toward other black people from the diaspora. They're always trying to do like diaspora war stuff. They call people tethers, all of that stuff.
Yvette Carnell served on the board of Progressives for Immigration Reform, which is characterized. Let me actually go to the actual.
He says he's tired, but now he's gonna go down.
But I always got smoke for the black xenophobes. Nothing gets me up more than going at my people.
I don't know, FD. She landed the plane on saying that this is not about diaspora wars and this is not about putting down any other kinds of black people.
She can land the plane, but we also have the picture of her with the MAGA hat on. So it's like, I'm sorry.
There's also a picture, I think, of Crystal with the MAGA hat on because she lost a bet to Sagar. I mean, come on.
The context is completely different, though. Her MAGA hat was her speaking to a tacit support of Donald Trump in the moment. It was a very different context. It's one thing to lose a bet. It's nothing that you're trying to make a point.
Okay.
I'll let her defend. That's not here and there.
Maybe when you take your next political turn, you'll end up doing debate bros.
Oh, trust me. When I talk about when I come to Africa, when I have that video on Africa, that is when I will finally address what I see from ADOS and FBA. And I know FBA
FBA,
FBA, ADOS, Democratic Party, Democratic Socialists.
All right. Look, I can't wait to watch that. FD, thank you for being so patient and spending so much time with us. I know the audience was upset that Monday's episode was on the shorter side. I also agree. I didn't realize that Trita Parsi was so time limited, although I did enjoy talking to him as always. But hopefully you podcast goblins, you insatiable listeners will really appreciate the length of this episode. It's always a pleasure, FD. Tell the people where they can find more of you and your work on the internet and beyond.
I am a FD Signifier. I have 5 YouTube channels, but only 3 of them that are of like any real significance because I'm not doing podcasts anymore and I'm not gaming like I thought I would. I am doing a podcast with Omar, and it is a slop fun podcast. It is completely apart from the serious conversation we had here. So check that out on Omar's channel Omizi's channel for the moment. Response to certain interesting events in hip hop and black political thought from me coming in hopefully a couple of weeks. Goon World episode 2 coming out in a couple of days. I guess by the time this goes out, maybe it'll be up already. But that is a Nebula exclusive, so you have to be there.
Well, this is going out tomorrow, so.
Oh, well, actually, it might be Thursday, so maybe the day after this comes out.
Okay.
But,
all right.
Yeah.
Cool beans. FD, it's always a pleasure. Thanks to all of you guys for tuning into this episode of Bad Faith Podcast. As always, you can get an extra episode of Bad Faith every Monday at patreon.com/badfaithpodcast. As always, take care of yourselves and remember to keep the faith. Hey YouTube, thanks for watching. Just a reminder that this is a podcast. You can catch an extra premium episode every Monday for $5 a month at patreon.com/badfaithpodcast. That's patreon.com/badfaithpodcast for $5 a month, an extra episode every week. Additionally, please do consider liking this video, subscribing to this channel. It helps us out. It helps independent media beat the algorithm. We appreciate you. And as always, keep the faith.